the school beauty's personal bodyguard. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. The main task is to run in. However, this is my first time discussing a partnership with their company, and they probably don't know that much about me. So, while I have my suspicions, I don't have any convincing evidence. Chu Pengzhan shook his head again, seemingly denying his suspicions. Uncle Chu, when I went to the bathroom earlier, I heard a man talking on the phone. Lin Yi recounted the conversation he had overheard in the restroom. Chu Pengzhan's brows knitted together as he listened to Lin Yi's words. He had long suspected something was amiss with the company he had been discussing a business partnership with. The negotiations were nearly complete, with only the contract pending. But when Chu Pengzhan arrived, the other party offered various excuses during the signing process. They seemed to be waiting for something, constantly checking the clock. When nothing came, they made excuses, saying the current partnership wasn't ready and needed a meeting to discuss it. Chu Pengzhan was furious at the company's backtracking, but after all, the contract hadn't been signed yet, and they had every right to go back on their word. He could only offer a few words about hoping to work together again sometime, and then hurriedly left. However, the other party's actions did raise his suspicions. Initially, he didn't think much of it. After learning that Chu Mengyao had been abducted by bank robbers, Chu Pengzhan began to speculate whether the two events were connected. However, on the surface, the two events didn't appear to be necessarily connected. Although the other party's attitude was somewhat odd, Chu Pengzhan couldn't find any flaws and remained merely suspicious. But after hearing Lin Yi's words, Chu Pengzhan suddenly understood everything. From the outset, the other party hadn't intended to be sincere in this cooperation. Instead, they had resorted to kidnapping his daughter to coerce him into achieving their goals. Indeed, if his daughter had been abducted by the other party instead of rescued by Lin Yi, all it would have taken was a hint from the other party's company during negotiations. For the sake of his daughter's safety, he would have been forced to comply and agree to some benefits. And afterward, the other party could have completely denied the allegations, believing the incident wasn't a bank robbery, and his daughter had merely been held hostage. With this cover, the kidnapping crime could be effectively concealed. No wonder the other party kept checking the clock, as if waiting for something. It turned out to be this. Judging from Lin Yi's words, the man making the call in the bathroom, since he could be on the top floor of the group, must be a high-ranking figure. With this person's presence, the other party's plan was flawless. However, they hadn't considered the uncertainty of Lin Yi. It seemed that bringing him to his daughter's side was a wise move. Chu Pengzhan had initially placed Lin Yi with Chu Mengyao simply according to his father's advice, without considering any other considerations. However, unexpectedly, Lin Yi would play a crucial role in this matter due to a series of twists and turns. I will investigate this matter. A stern look flashed in Chu Pengzhan's eyes. Although he had conflicts with some senior executives within the company, he would never tolerate someone using his daughter to cause trouble. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't want to get involved in such matters. As the chairman of the group, Chu Pengzhan naturally had his own methods. Lin Yi had only shared what he had heard with Chu Pengzhan. The specific implementation was up to Chu Pengzhan. Zai, you didn't alert the enemy, did you? Chu Pengzhan suddenly thought of an important question. Did Lin Yi's eavesdropping in the bathroom alert the other party? If so, catching him would be difficult. Don't worry, Uncle Chu, Lin Yi said with a smile. I was also startled when Uncle Fu called, but I pretended to be someone who came to the group for business and went to the wrong floor. Lin Yi repeated his earlier muttering to Chu Pengzhan. Haha, not bad, you're quite alert, Chu Pengzhan exclaimed. The more he watched Lin Yi, the more satisfied he felt. Initially, it was just his father's wishes, and Chu Pengzhan simply followed his father's instructions. But now, he truly believed that Lin Yi was a rare talent. Chu Pengzhan's father, Chu Sanhua, was a man of great influence in the family. He had founded the Pengzhan Group, and although it had been handed over to Chu Pengzhan, Chu Sanhua still held the final say. Many of the company's current shareholders were old friends who had accompanied their father on his journey to conquer the world. Although the shares had now passed to their children, grandchildren, and relatives, some of them had begun to grow restless. However, Chu Pengzhan, to save his father's face, hadn't dealt with them. However, Today's incident had touched Chu Pengzhan's limits. Chu Mengyao was his only daughter, and these people were actually using her to cause trouble. This had truly angered him for the first time. By the way, Uncle Chu, could you please tell me what mission you have for me? Lin Yi hesitated, then decided to take this opportunity to ask. He had been in Songshan City for several days, and hadn't seen any significant missions. Every day, he'd accompanied Chu Mengyao to and from school, made a breakfast, and dealt with a few clowns. While his life was easy, Lin Yi felt uneasy. He'd come on a mission of great importance, one that supposedly would provide him with a lifetime of food and clothing. But Lin Yi never thought that accompanying his daughter to school would earn him a lifetime of food and clothing. Oh, the mission. Chu Pengzhan gave Lin Yi a strange look after hearing what he said, then said, it's indeed an important mission, but first and foremost, you need to build a good relationship with Yao to ensure the smooth execution of the mission. Lin Yi was stunned. Building a good relationship with Chu Mengyao? Only then can the mission be carried out? What kind of mission was this? Could it be related to Chu Mengyao? Could there be someone behind the scenes plotting to harm her, and Chu Pengzhan was using her as bait so he could uncover the mastermind? That was all Lin Yi could think of. Chu Pengzhan's unclear explanation left him completely bewildered. However, based on Lin Yi's previous experience on missions, he knew that many employers would keep missions confidential, not revealing any details until the very last moment. Although Lin Yi knew he couldn't leak any information, from the employer's perspective, it was better to be cautious. It's better to be safe than sorry. Lin Yi understood. Chapter 77. A murderous person. Uncle Chu, if there's nothing else, I'll go to school first. Lin Yi had said everything he needed to say, and it was Chu Pengzhan's responsibility to decide how to handle the rest. Okay, Chu Pengzhan nodded. Don't tell Yao about what happened today. I don't want her to be too troubled. Don't worry, Uncle Chu, I won't say anything. Lin Yi stood up and prepared to leave. Li Fu, please take Xiaowei to school, Chu Pengzhan instructed Uncle Fu. Okay, Mr. Chu, Uncle Fu nodded in agreement. No need. I can just hail a taxi downstairs, Lin Yi said quickly. He was planning to go to the pharmacy and didn't want Uncle Fu to follow him. There were some things he didn't want others to know too much about. That's fine. Seeing Lin Yi say this, Chu Pengzhan didn't insist. Until I resolve the company's problems, Yao's safety is in your hands. Lin Yi waved his hand. Uncle Chu, since my mission involves Miss Chu, I naturally won't let anything happen to her before I officially carry out the mission. Chu Pengzhan nodded and sighed slightly. He had originally thought that this was a good deal for Lin Yi, but now it seemed that Lin Yi wasn't too fond of Chu Mengyao. He didn't know what his father had arranged, but regardless, he would just do what he said. Li Fu, go notify the administration department and have them prepare the meeting room. I'm holding a board meeting this afternoon. Chu Pengzhan didn't insist after Lin Yi refused to let Uncle Fu see him off because he had something else to ask Uncle Fu to do. Okay, Mr. Chu, Uncle Fu nodded and quickly left Chu Pengzhan's office. Although Chu Pengzhan had a full-time secretary, there were many things he couldn't let his secretary know. Only Uncle Fu, his trusted confidant, could know. So, in many cases, Uncle Fu also acted as secretary. After exiting Pengzhan building, Lin Yi hailed a taxi. Where are you going, young man? The driver asked, pressing the meter. Sir, do you know where I can buy Chinese herbal medicine wholesale? Lin Yi wasn't familiar with Songshan City's topography, but some veteran taxi drivers were like walking maps, familiar with every aspect of the city. Oh, you mean Chinese herbal medicine? The kind you get in bulk, like sticks or twigs, or the prepared Chinese patent medicine? The driver wasn't sure which type Lin Yi wanted. Hell, Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh at the taxi driver's description. To many ordinary people, Chinese herbal medicine was essentially just like sticks or twigs, bulk sticks or twigs. Lin Yi didn't correct him. After all, he wasn't a professional. As long as he understood and there were no communication barriers, that was all that mattered. For wholesale, you'll need to go to the Cayenne Village Traditional Chinese Medicine Wholesale Market, the driver said. It's not in the city, though. It'll take more than half a day to get there. If you're buying a small amount, you can go to a larger pharmacy, which has a more comprehensive selection. Lin Yi abandoned his plan to go to the wholesale market. At least for now, he didn't need to go there. He could just buy some for immediate use. So, he said, then find me a larger pharmacy. That's easy, the driver said, starting the car. After turning a few corners, the car stopped in front of a large pharmacy. It seemed the driver hadn't taken a long detour. The meter still showed the starting fare. Lin Yi paid the fare, thanked him, and got out, heading inside. Entering the pharmacy, Lin Yi sighed. It seemed that no matter the time of year, medicine was a lucrative industry. So many people were buying medicine in the pharmacy in broad daylight, and many of the counters selling common medications were already crowded. Lin Yi wanted to buy Chinese herbal medicine, a relatively rare commodity. He handed the salesperson his pre-made list, who issued a receipt and told him to pay. The Chinese medicine Lin Yi needed was extensive, and weighing it would take a while. Luckily, there were no other customers, so Lin Yi took advantage of the time the salesperson was weighing to casually browse the store. Golden healing medicine, a voice caught Lin Yi's attention. Golden healing medicine, Lin Yi was stunned. There was such a thing? The term golden healing medicine refers to metal objects like knives. In ancient times, weapons were the most common cause of injury, so gold also referred to them, and wound means wound. Therefore, golden healing medicine refers to medicine specifically for treating knife wounds and other metal injuries caused by weapons. Its effects include stopping bleeding, relieving pain, and reducing inflammation. However, golden healing medicine was just an ancient term. It seems there aren't any medicines called golden healing medicine anymore. Out of stock, sold out, the salesperson replied expressionlessly. Lin Yi took a look and saw that the person asking for medicine was a girl dressed in black. She was wearing a navy hat with a brim pulled down low, making it impossible to see her face clearly. After receiving the reply from the salesperson that the medicine was sold out, the girl said nothing and turned away, but her steps were a bit unsteady. Suddenly, Lin Yi's eyes fixed on the girl's feet. On the ground where the girl walked, there was a clear trail of blood, obviously flowing down her trouser legs. However, in this busy pharmacy, it did not attract anyone's attention, and the bloodstain was quickly trampled away by the people walking back and forth. The reason why Lin Yi paid attention to this girl was, firstly, because she was curious about the golden medicine she mentioned, and secondly, because Lin Yi sensed a trace of the same aura on her, murderous aura. Murderous aura is a mysterious thing. Murderous aura is actually a signal sent by animals when they attack each other. This signal requires a sixth sense to detect. Someone once conducted an experiment in which a wild forest cat and a mouse were placed in a box separated by two thin, soundproof panels. The panels were not far apart, odor-blocking, and mutually invisible. The cat, seemingly sensing something, pawed at the panel, trying to penetrate it, while the mouse huddled on the other side. It was clear that the cat sensed the mouse's presence, and the mouse also sensed the cat. But how did the cat and mouse sense each other? Scientists explained this as a sixth sense, beyond the five senses of animals. Rather than relying on ears, nose, or eyes to detect each other, animals can use this sixth sense to detect signals emitted by predators or other animals that might attack them. These signals can be interpreted as murderous intent. Humans also possess this sixth sense, but it's weakened by prolonged isolation from nature. However, some individuals, retain this sense despite their superior perception. For example, veterans on the battlefield can often sense whether there are ambushing enemies on the opposite side, or hunters who have lived in the forest hunting all their lives. These people who have traveled through life and death for a long time can slowly stimulate this feeling. Chapter 78, To Care or Not to Care. An ordinary person might not notice the murderous aura emanating from a girl. However, as a colleague, Lin Yi could keenly sense it. It could be called a sixth sense. It was just that Lin Yi noticed the girl, but she didn't. After years of training, Lin Yi had become adept at concealing his murderous aura, but few could reach his level. Ultimately, Lin Yi shook his head. The girl's attire clearly meant she wanted to avoid attention. Although she was injured, Lin Yi had no intention of helping her. Family members should mind their own business. Even though they might be colleagues didn't want to be disturbed while on a mission. Even colleagues belonged to different organizations, and perhaps even had hostile relations. "Excuse me, what is the golden healing medicine?" Lin Yi casually asked the salesperson. The salesperson was stunned, then looked at Lin Yi as if he were an idiot, as if his question was foolish and naive. She was too disdainful to answer. "Of course it's a surgical medicine for healing wounds. It's out of stock even if you want to buy it." Lin Yi gave a wry smile. It seemed that it might be a new medicine, and it seemed to be a very popular one. However, The salesperson was too disdainful to answer Lin Yi's questions, but there were people who were enthusiastic to answer Lin Yi's questions. Before Lin Yi could say anything, an old lady next to Lin Yi began to nag incessantly. "Young man, you don't even know about the golden wound medicine? Do you know Dr. Kang? Dr. Kang, who comes from a family of traditional Chinese medicine, is a leading figure in the field of traditional Chinese medicine." The old lady began to talk about Dr. Kang's deeds like a treasure. The golden wound medicine is a fast-healing medicine launched by Dr. Kang. It can make wounds heal quickly, and there will be no scars afterwards. How about it? It's amazing, right? So amazing. Lin Yi didn't expect that Dr. Kang was so amazing that his medicine was comparable to the healing medicine he prepared himself. "Yes, I heard it's a secret recipe passed down from generation to generation. This golden healing medicine is primarily supplied to the military. Due to production capacity constraints, small quantities are periodically supplied to private pharmacies, so it's in short supply," the old woman said. "If you're hoping to buy it at a pharmacy, it's almost impossible. My niece's boyfriend's third sister's aunt's fifth cousin is the supply and marketing manager of the XX chain pharmacy. Last time, I used his connections to buy a bottle, but they said it was sold out internally as soon as it arrived, so there was no chance it would be put on the shelves." Really, Lin Yi thought to himself. If this medicine was really as miraculous as the old woman said, it wouldn't be impossible for it to be a big seller. Of course. Especially for young girls. Scars on their bodies are so ugly. It's not just for the purpose of healing wounds quickly, the most important thing is to prevent scars, the old woman said. "I heard that people don't give gifts of platinum or gold anymore these days. They give golden healing medicine." Really, Lin Yi was stunned, unsure whether what the old woman said was true. "Of course, how could I lie to you?" the old woman said, her tone arguing with her age. "Oh, is that so? Thank you, but it seems I won't need it for now," Lin Yi said to the old woman with a smile. "Yeah, you're a grown man. So you don't need that stuff," the old woman nodded, clearly misunderstanding Lin Yi's words. He meant that he could make the medicine himself and didn't need to buy it. Lin Yi naturally didn't want to explain. He turned to the Chinese herbal medicine counter. The herbs he had requested had already been weighed and placed in sealed bags according to their type. Lin Yi carefully examined them and found that 2 of the herbs seemed to have been left out for too long and had deteriorated, naturally reducing their effectiveness. Lin Yi had no choice but to weigh more, thinking that more would be better than less. He then checked the utensils and mixing tools he had requested, making sure they were all in good condition before carefully packing them up and leaving the pharmacy. These days, both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine are selling like hotcakes. Only bulk herbal remedies like these aren't very popular in pharmacies, and few people buy them. This is why Lin Yi was able to finish his purchase so quickly and leave the pharmacy. After leaving the pharmacy, Lin Yi didn't plan to go straight to school. Since he was already absent, it didn't matter whether he went or not. He had already purchased a set of measuring instruments and tools for making the medicine, and he planned to find a place to make the medicine first. Of course, this couldn't be done in school, and certainly not in Chu Mengyao's villa. The smell of Chinese medicine would fill the house, and those 2 girls would be crazy. The best solution was to book an hourly room, get the treatment, and leave. With this in mind, Lin Yi no longer rushed to school, but instead wandered around the pharmacy, looking for a similar hotel to book an hourly room. At the entrance of a sparsely populated alley, Lin Yi saw the girl from the pharmacy. She was now lying on the ground, a pool of bright red blood beneath her. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but in this sparsely populated alley, who would dare intervene even if someone did? What if the person he was trying to save died? That would just cause unnecessary trouble. Lin Yi hesitated. He had a mission to fulfill, so it wasn't appropriate to meddle in other people's affairs. Furthermore, in this line of work, one must be prepared to sacrifice at any moment. Although Lin Yi knew that if he ignored her, she would likely die from excessive blood loss. However, sometimes, Lin Yi simply couldn't help himself, especially with something like this, something that didn't concern him, yet was clearly a major concern. The girl was clearly no ordinary person, and Lin Yi simply couldn't intervene. Gritting his teeth, Lin Yi quickly walked past the girl. As he passed her slumped body, he couldn't help but glance at her with pity. "I hope you pull through," he said, before quickly walking away. However, after only a few steps, Lin Yi suddenly stopped. "Wait, That glance just now made Lin Yi see something that seemed familiar, but he was not sure. Lin Yi turned around and walked back to the girl's side. He bent down and stared at a ring on the little finger of her right hand. After he saw the pattern on it clearly, Lin Yi sighed and quickly touched the girl's wrist. Finding a pulse, Lin Yi carefully lifted her up from the ground and carried her on his back. Although the girl had fainted from excessive blood loss, she still had some instinctive reactions and subconsciously struggled twice when Lin Yi carried her. Perhaps it was a conditioned reflex to the external attack. Looking around to see if there was anyone around, Lin Yi quickened his pace and ran in the direction he had walked from before, carrying the girl on his back. Chapter 79 The Origin of the Girl. On his way here earlier, Lin Yi passed by a family-run hotel, but it didn't look particularly good, so he hadn't planned on going. However, given the current urgency, he couldn't bother looking for other hotels. He was content with just one. Get a room. Lin Yi rushed into the hotel, carrying the girl on his back, and said to the landlady sitting at the bar. The landlady was bored watching TV when she suddenly saw a young man carrying a woman in black Russian, demanding a room the moment he entered. A flirtatious smile crossed her face. Her family-run hotel was actually quite low-end, serving as a place for young couples with limited funds to make out. Most of these couples didn't care about the quality of the place, as long as it was quiet and clean. She'd seen many young men and women checking in here, but she'd rarely seen someone as impatient as Lin Yi, demanding a room the moment he walked in with a woman on his back. Hourly rates are $15 an hour, and $60 a day, the landlady told Lin Yi. Oh, then I'll deposit 100 yuan. Lin Yi pulled 100 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the landlady. Wait, take out your ID card for registration. The landlady, however, wasn't blinded by the money and remained vigilant. Lin Yi frowned, unsure if the girl on his back would make it. But there was no other way. Registration was necessary, so Lin Yi had to take out his ID card and hand it to the landlady for registration. Her ID isn't necessary, Lin Yi asked. Her ID naturally referred to the girl on his back, and he was sure the landlady would understand what he meant. No, just one person will do. The landlady followed the regulations in registering the ID card, and it wasn't her intention to embarrass Lin Yi. One person per room was enough. After scanning Lin Yi's ID, the landlady produced a room card. Upstairs, room 209. Go up, thank you. Lin Yi took the card and quickly carried the girl upstairs. The girl remained motionless, hunched over Lin Yi's shoulder the entire way. If he hadn't been able to feel her heartbeat, Lin Yi would have suspected she was dead. Huh? Lin Yi threw the girl onto the bed, then carefully closed the door and drew the curtains. He then carefully checked every corner of the room, making sure there were no wireless cameras or similar devices. Only then did he feel relieved. Honestly, if Lin Yi hadn't suddenly noticed the ring on the girl's right pinky finger, he would have never bothered with such trivial matters. It would have been a waste of time. The pattern on the ring represented an organization, a well-known international assassin organization. Although Lin Yi no longer belonged to this organization, its founder had a close connection with Lin Yi. The master who taught Lin Yi the assassination techniques was one of the founders of that organization. Although Old Man Lin was a skilled fighter, he excelled at a practical, steady, and reliable martial art, suitable for direct confrontation. However, direct confrontations were rare in actual missions. Assassinations and sneak attacks were the key to victory. When Lin Yi was young, Old Man Lin sent him to his master for 2 years of intensive training. His master taught him all the techniques of assassination and sneak attacks. Although he didn't know his master's identity, and Old Man Lin never mentioned it directly, Lin Yi had a vague feeling that his master was truly formidable. It had been years since he last saw his master, and all these years, Lin Yi had always missed him deeply. He was Lin Yi's true master. Although Old Man Lin had taught Lin Yi much, it was more like a relationship between a grandfather and a grandson, not a master-disciple relationship. Moreover, Old Man Lin never expected to be Lin Yi's master. He had only learned less than 30% of his master's techniques, yet he had already repeatedly gained the upper hand in missions. It was clear how formidable his master's abilities were. However, he was too young at the time, and even if he studied diligently, he would have been lucky to have grasped only 30%. It was precisely because Lin Yi remembered his master's kindness that, when he saw the ring on the girl's hand bearing the emblem of the organization his master had founded, he changed his mind and decided to help her. Although his master had long since withdrawn from the organization's affairs, the girl was still considered one of his own. "I'll help you this time. Whether you survive depends on your luck." Lin Yi laid the girl flat on the bed, and the bucket hat slipped to the side. Her short, dark hair fell apart, revealing a delicate, slightly pale face. Her features were delicate, her eyelashes long, and her brows furrowed in a frown, suggesting that even if she was unconscious, she must be in great pain. Lin Yi was slightly startled, having never expected such a stunningly beautiful face beneath that bucket hat. This surprised him. Such a beautiful girl, a killer? Judging from her age, she must be only 17 or 18, around his own age. Lin Yi shook his head, but it was someone else's business, and he had no right to interfere. From previous observations, the girl's injuries were likely to be in her lower body, but she was wearing leather pants that didn't show blood, making it impossible to determine the location of the wound from the outside. Lin Yi didn't bother looking for them, so he simply ripped them off. After removing them, Lin Yi felt a sense of discomfort, his breathing becoming rapid. While Lin Yi's initial intentions were good and pure, he was simply offering a helping hand to the dying female assassin out of friendship for his master's sake. He had helped remove her pants and heal her wounds. If the female assassin looked like the male assassin, Lin Yi probably wouldn't have had any particular thoughts. But this female assassin was beautiful and had a great figure, so after removing her pants, Lin Yi inevitably had some inappropriate thoughts, as any man would have. However, what he saw next completely extinguished Lin Yi's desire. The inside of the leather pants was completely stained red with blood, and underneath, the girl's pantyhose were completely soaked with blood. The original color was completely invisible. "Oh my God!" Lin Yi gasped. "Even in this state, you can still walk? You can still run to the pharmacy? It would be fine if you didn't find a good place to recuperate, but if you had to go, you went to the hospital? Did you think that Dr. Kang's golden medicine could really stop the bleeding quickly?" Chapter 80, Healing and Boiling Medicine. Judging from the situation, the girl's pantyhose was likely entangled with the wound. If he removed them directly, it would likely touch the wound, causing further bleeding. Lin Yi frowned. There were no emergency surgical tools in the room. Earlier, when removing the girl's leather pants, Lin Yi had felt something hard, and judging by the feel, it must be a dagger. Without other tools, Lin Yi had no choice but to use this dagger. Picking up the pants from the ground, Lin Yi pulled out the dagger from inside. He waved it back and forth in the air twice, testing the feel, and then began to cut back and forth across the girl's pantyhose. Lin Yi was an expert with knives. At the age of 6, he had practiced close combat with a dagger, a concealed weapon he had used with his master. It was also one of his most commonly used weapons in combat. Lin Yi simply used the tip of the knife to pry the fibers of the pantyhose, without damaging anything else. With a few strokes, the girl's pantyhose was shredded. Lin Yi casually peeled it off twice and discarded it. Under the pantyhose, Lin Yi finally saw the wound. At the base of the right thigh. Although a simple bandage had been applied, it was clearly ineffective in stopping the bleeding. The bleeding continued unabated. Otherwise, the girl wouldn't have been able to buy some kind of Kangshengyan chemotherapy at the pharmacy. Besides the bandage, the girl's lower body was left with only her underwear. But at the moment, Lin Yi had no other thoughts. Lin Yi wasn't a psychopath. A woman covered in blood, even if she was stunningly beautiful, wouldn't interest him in that way. Using a knife, he peeled the bandage off the girl's leg and began to examine the wound. The injury was indeed serious, but Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. The femoral artery hadn't been damaged. Without specialized surgical equipment, he would have been forced to take her to the hospital, but whether she could make it was another matter. The wound was triangular, clearly inflicted with a sharp instrument like a triangular scalpel. Because of its triangular shape, ordinary hemostatics would be difficult to stop the bleeding without suturing. Judging from the current situation, the girl had likely bandaged herself after being injured, but found the wound hadn't healed and instead bled profusely. Desperate, she went to the pharmacy to buy the Kangshenya golden healing herb, but it wasn't available. On the way back, she finally fainted from the blood loss. Lin Yi understood the girl's behavior. The assassin profession was unique. Even if injured, few would go to the hospital. They would treat themselves if possible to minimize the risk of exposing their identities. Understanding the girl's injuries, Lin Yi was able to prescribe the right treatment. While the wound was deep, it hadn't damaged any arteries or tendons, making it a non-issue. Lin Yi stood up, took out the Chinese medicine he bought at the pharmacy, and quickly ground several herbs into a container. This was a familiar process for Lin Yi. In the North African jungle, his herbs were a favorite among his teammates, and he always ground a bag full to share. The previous gauze was unusable, soaked in blood. Since the incident had happened so suddenly, Lin Yi hadn't prepared anything, so he had to consider other options. Although his school uniform was fresh this morning, Lin Yi didn't want to tear it off to bandage the assassin. He stood up and headed for the restroom, where he spotted a shelf of disposable disinfectant bath towels. Next to them, a small price tag read 40 yuan. These disposable disinfectant bath towels wouldn't cost more than 20 yuan if purchased in bulk, but at the hotel, the price doubled. Of course, the hotel also provided free bath towels, though they weren't disposable. These were only for the misophobic and weren't compulsory. Lin Yi took one of these disinfectant bath towels, which served as a makeshift bandage. He sprinkled the ground medicine onto the girl's wound, and she let out a barely audible moan, presumably from the drug's effects. But Lin Yi ignored her. Applying medicine wouldn't hurt. After applying the medicine, Lin Yi tore the disposable bath towel into several pieces and expertly bandaged the girl's wound. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief, finally done. It looked like the girl had simply lost too much blood. If the bleeding could be stopped now, she still had a good chance of survival. Of course, assassins are generally very resilient, and Lin Yi probably saw that the girl had survived. Aside from being a little weak after waking, she was probably fine. Having dealt with the assassin, Lin Yi turned to his own affairs. He'd been anxious when preparing the medicine for the girl, so he'd only prepared the exact amount needed. Lin Yi still hadn't taken care of his own wounds. These healing herbs were ground, which was easy enough, but the medicine for Yang Huaijin required a more gradual simmer. The order and timing of adding each herb were strictly standardized, and not the slightest mistake could be made. Otherwise, while the ingredients would be similar, the potency would be greatly reduced, and the desired effect would be lost. This was why Lin Yi didn't give the prescription to Yang Huaijin, but instead prepared the medicine himself. For one thing, this recipe wasn't as easy to prepare and brew as the painkillers he'd been given before. Those painkillers simply required buying all the herbs listed in the recipe and grinding them together, but boiling this recipe was different. Secondly, Lin Yi didn't want this recipe to be spread. Although he trusted Yang Huaijin, he was worried that if Yang Huaijin accidentally leaked it, it would cause a stir in the Chinese medicine community. Lin Yi set up the alcohol stove and clay pot on a flat surface and began to boil the medicine for Yang Huaijin. While the hotel provided electric tea makers, Chinese medicine was still best boiled over fire. Boiling medicine was a grueling task, but for Lin Yi, who often made straw sandals at home, it was nothing. Checking the time on his phone, Lin Yi skillfully placed each herb into the clay pot. After an unspecified moment, he heard a subtle movement not far behind him. If it weren't for Lin Yi's exceptionally keen hearing, he wouldn't have been able to detect the subtle sound, even with his intense concentration on the brewing process. Lin Yi didn't turn back. He was in the middle of a crucial moment, preparing the medicine, and he couldn't afford to be distracted. He pinched a few herbs in his hand, calculating the time on his phone. He knew the girl might have woken up, but he didn't have the time to bother with her. It would be fine if she could just quietly leave after getting up. After all, no one would know each other after leaving this room, and Lin Yi didn't expect the girl to be grateful to him. Chapter 81 Repaying Kindness with Enmity? Lin Yi didn't expect the girl to be grateful, but she didn't seem to be willing to let him go. Just as Lin Yi was concentrating on brewing the medicine and didn't even turn back to pay attention to the girl, a murderous aura attacked from behind him. The jade pendant also moved, signaling danger. Lin Yi frowned, but at this critical moment, he didn't want to be distracted. Stop it, Yang Kiki was feeling conflicted. Although she had fainted from excessive blood loss on the way out of the pharmacy, the pain from Lin Yi pulling off her pants had irritated her wound, giving her some sense and clarity. However, she was so weak that she didn't even have the strength to open her eyes, and she fainted again. Later, when Lin Yi was treating her wound and applying medicine, Yang Kiki woke up again in pain, but immediately fainted again. So Yang Kiki still had a vague memory of what happened next. It was the man in the room who saved her, but he also saw many things he shouldn't have seen. Her own face, and her own legs. This was something Yang Kiki absolutely could not tolerate. Although she felt a little uneasy about having to kill her savior, her beauty had blossomed only for one man in this life, and the man in the room had already crossed her line. Having made her decision, Yang Kiki fetched the dagger from the bedside and tiptoed behind Lin Yi. However, seeing him so absorbed in brewing the medicine, Yang Kiki's movements faltered. Was he brewing the medicine for her? A warm feeling welled up in Yang Kiki's heart, and she felt a little reluctant to act. Yang Kiki admitted that her heart wasn't as cold and ruthless as other killers. After all, this man in the room was her savior. Just as Yang Kiki hesitated, Lin Yi, like a child, told her to shut up. This left Yang Kiki stunned. She was going to kill him, and he told her to shut up? Did he think she was just wandering around the room? Didn't you hear the story of Mr. Dongguo when you were a child? Lin Yi, still not turning around, continued to speak. I feel like Mr. Dongguo in that story now. Yang Kiki's face changed. Of course she knew the story of Mr. Dongguo. Although she had been raised in an assassin organization since childhood, she was distinctly different from other assassins. In addition to her assassin training, she also received a formal education. The story of Mr. Dongguo is actually a classic fable, telling the story of a man named Mr. Dongguo who saved a wolf, only to have the wolf turn around and try to eat him. However, Lin Yi's words reminded Yang Kiki that Lin Yi's previous "stop making trouble" wasn't just a casual remark. Lin Yi had already sensed his intention to kill him. The story of Mr. Dongguo he later told proved this point. He was implicitly mocking her own ingratitude. Who exactly was this person? Yang Kiki was startled. Even with her back to him, she could sense that she was using him against her, yet she didn't react. Was he being confident, or was this man's motive for treating her injuries questionable? A chill ran through Yang Kiki's heart, solidifying her resolve. The dagger in her hand quickened its pace, striking Lin Yi's neck without hesitation. Lin Yi hadn't expected the female assassin to be so far gone, bullying him even though he had both hands occupied. Lin Yi frowned, jerking his head to the side, dodging Yang Kiki's dagger. He then bit down on the dagger, biting Yang Kiki's finger as well. Yang Kiki felt pain in her hand as the dagger slipped out of her grasp. She hadn't recovered yet, and it was only through sheer willpower that she was able to stand up and walk behind Lin Yi. After the dagger slipped from her grasp, Yang Kiki collapsed, gasping for breath. The wound on her leg seemed to have been irritated, and cold sweat dripped down her forehead. Lin Yi spat the dagger aside and continued brewing the medicine. You're truly ungrateful. But come on, a good man doesn't fight a woman. Go quickly, or I'll have to kill you after I finish the medicine. Yang Kiki now understood that Lin Yi was no ordinary person. Could an ordinary person dodge her sneak attack? Could an ordinary person hold a dagger in their mouths? Yang Kiki also understood from Lin Yi's words that this medicine wasn't meant for her, it was just her own wishful thinking. HMPH, Yang Kiki's eyes were filled with humiliation and resentment. She wasn't a reckless person. As a killer, she couldn't be reckless either. Reckless killers would have been killed first and wouldn't have survived. Since Lin Yi had easily snatched her dagger even with his hands occupied, Yang Kiki gave up the idea of continuing. She was no match for him. Even when she wasn't injured, she couldn't guarantee she could completely defeat this man. He didn't radiate any murderous aura, not even a trace, yet he gave her the feeling of being unfathomable. Truly unfathomable, this feeling was only felt within the organization when facing one's own father. Yang Kiki silently picked up her leather pants from the ground. Although blood was stained, it had dried, and aside from being a little uncomfortable, it didn't affect her appearance. The key issue is that there were no other changes of clothing in the room. Don't forget to close the door when you leave, Lin Yi said to Yang Kiki, as if he had eyes behind him. Yang Kiki left the room, slamming the door shut. I'm sorry, this man saved my life. I'm no match for him now, but don't worry, I'll remember him. One day, I'll kill him myself, because I'm just your little seven. Yang Kiki swore a silent oath. In truth, Yang Kiki's name wasn't Yang Kiki. Seven was just a code name she'd used in the assassin graduation trial group. As the youngest, she was naturally ranked 7th. The other members of the group were also named by numbers. Meanwhile, Linde Jiangpei, who was brewing medicine inside the room, had no idea that his good intentions had been noticed. Chu, Lin Yi sneezed, thinking to himself, I've smelled this Chinese medicine before, so why am I sneezing again? This was his second sneeze of the day. Lin Yi sniffed, wondering if he really had a cold. When did his health get so bad? He caught a cold every time he arrived in Songshan. Could it be because he'd been too idle? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 I'll Remember You. Although the bleeding on Yang Kiki's leg had stopped, her body hadn't recovered yet. Her face was still pale, and she walked with a limp. Even so, she didn't want to stay in the room. Since she couldn't kill Lin Yi, she would leave and come back to kill him later if she had the chance. This was the rule of a killer. If you can't win, then you're not a killer, you're a Suicide Squad member. Limping to the first floor, Yang Kiki went to the bar and asked, "Madam, what was the name of the man who took me to room 209? Yang Kiki hadn't asked Lin Yi's name before because she knew he wouldn't answer even if she asked. Lin Yi treated her like a passerby, and since she was going to kill him, he certainly wouldn't ask for trouble. However, Yang Kiki wasn't stupid. She knew that everyone who checked into a hotel had to register. Since she was unconscious at the time and didn't have any identification on her, the person who registered must have been Lin Yi. Oh, the landlady was startled. Then, noticing Yang Kiki's attire, she immediately emerged. She was the woman the man had carried on his back, rushing to book a room with him. No way? They'd gotten together without knowing each other? And even come to book a room? But judging by her appearance, she must have been carried here. Could she have been drunk? If that were the explanation, it was quite possible. The young men and women of today. The landlady lamented the decline of morality, but she never imagined that without these young men and women booking rooms, her hotel's business would still be as prosperous as it is today. His name is Lin Yi, the landlady said to Yang Kiki, glancing at the registration book. Thank you, Yang Kiki nodded, having memorized the name. Lin Yi? It was unclear whether it was his real name or a pseudonym, but regardless, Yang Kiki had already come to hate it. You're welcome. For the landlady, it was a simple matter of words. Yang Kiki wrote down Lin Yi's name and turned toward the hotel entrance. Seeing Yang Kiki limping out of the hotel, the proprietress couldn't help but click her tongue. No way? So violent? She can't even walk? The man just now didn't look very imposing. How could he be so powerful? Could it be that this girl was a virgin? The proprietress shook her head, thinking evilly in her heart. Yang Kiki's matter was just an insignificant episode for Lin Yi. But Lin Yi felt a little unhappy about Yang Kiki wanting to use a knife. After all, he saved her life. Although he saw her thigh, how could he heal the wound without seeing her thigh? According to her, she would kill people to silence them if they saw her thigh. He hadn't even been seen by the nurse today. Should he also use a knife to kill that old lady? Although the firepower of the alcohol stove is not as powerful as that of the gas stove, it can be used as a substitute if it is well controlled. The prepared medicinal decoctions were placed into sealed bags purchased from the pharmacy. Since the decoctions were hot, they naturally produced steam. As they cooled, the steam turned into water, creating a vacuum inside the bags. This allowed for better preservation and prevented the decoctions from spoiling. After completing all this, Lin Yi put away the instruments he had used to boil the herbs. He would need them again. Although the alcohol was almost burnt out, it was readily available. After packing up and realizing he hadn't forgotten anything, Lin Yi called the front desk downstairs and asked her to check out. However, when Lin Yi's eyes fell on the sheets in the room, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed he was bound to pay for them. They were stained with blood and clearly couldn't be kept. Not long after, the landlady sauntered into the room. Apparently, the hotel didn't have a staff, so she ran the place alone. Before the landlady came up, Lin Yi had opened the window to let in some fresh air, so the smell of the medicinal herbs wasn't too strong in the room. The proprietress didn't notice the smell, but as soon as she entered the room, she was stunned by the large bloodstains on the bed. Your bed sheet. The proprietress pointed at the bed sheet in the room in surprise, and was speechless. She was too shocked beyond words. She had previously maliciously speculated that Yang Kiki was limping because it was her first time, and now seeing the large bloodstains on the bed sheet, it further confirmed her previous evil thoughts. But she was thinking, this Lin Yi didn't know how to be gentle with women. He made such a terrible scene for the first time. It looked like he was bleeding profusely. Was he trying to kill someone? If someone died in her hotel, it would be unfortunate. Thinking of this, the proprietress's face darkened. This bedsheet cost dozens of yuan. After deducting the bedsheet money from the room fee, there would be nothing left. Why did you mess up the room like this? The proprietress asked with a cold face. Sorry, I'll give you the price. Lin Yi didn't know how to explain, so he simply told the landlady he'd pay the full price. Since Lin Yi had already said so, the landlady naturally kept quiet, thinking this guy was quite smart, otherwise she'd be waiting to say something even more nasty. After inspecting the room's amenities, the landlady said, a disposable bath towel, 40 yuan, a bed sheet, 60 yuan, a total of 100 yuan, okay, Lin Yi nodded. The landlady wasn't too shady. White sheets like these, if bought in bulk, would cost 30 yuan a piece, and he'd sell them to him for 60, just like the bath towels, double the price. Seeing Lin Yi's straightforwardness, the landlady remained silent. Then come downstairs with me and we'll settle the room rate. You rested in the room for 5 hours, so the standard daily rate is 60 yuan. You deposited 100 yuan, so you can just give me the 60 yuan. Lin Yi nodded, went downstairs, paid the landlady the money, and turned to leave. Wait, the landlady called out to Lin Yi. Anything else? Lin Yi turned around and asked, thinking that maybe the proprietress felt that it was not worth it and wanted to blackmail him again. The girl you brought just now asked your name before leaving, and I told her. Seeing that Lin Yi was so straightforward, the proprietress kindly reminded him. From the feeling, the two of them were definitely not a couple, so the proprietress said a few more words. Huh? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't want to have any contact with a female killer anymore, but he didn't expect that the female killer actually wrote down his name when she left. I guess there will be trouble again in the future. After leaving the hotel, Lin Yi looked at the time. It was already past 2 in the afternoon. He hadn't eaten lunch yet, but for Lin Yi, a meal was not very important. Lin Yi stopped a taxi, got in the car and said to the driver, go to No. 1 High School. Chapter 83 The New Four Evil Youngsters. When he arrived at school, the campus was still very quiet. It seemed classes hadn't ended yet. Lin Yi went upstairs and came to the door of class 3-5. He peeked through the window at the doorway. It was a study session, and the teacher wasn't there. Lin Yi pushed the door open and walked in. Many people looked up, and when they saw it was Lin Yi, they went back to their own work. Time is tight in the 3rd year of high school, and no one likes to meddle in other people's business. Chen Yushu nudged Chu Mengyao beside her with a finger. Sister Yao, Arrow brother is here, he comes, so what does it have to do with me? Chu Mengyao frowned, slightly dissatisfied with Chen Yushu's behavior. Xiaoshu, why are you so focused on him? I say, you're not really attracted to him, are you? Oh, there's a real person walking into the classroom. I saw it the moment I looked up. Chen Yushu shrugged, since it has nothing to do with you, I won't say anything about it anymore. Chu Mengyao opened her mouth, but said nothing. She shook her head and continued to look at the review materials in her hand. Chen Yushu looked at Chu Mengyao, smiled faintly, and went about her own business. Xiaoshu, what about Lin Yi? He got up early in the morning to change the dressing, but why didn't he come until the afternoon? Isn't he hooking up with Song Lingshan again? Chu Mengyao suddenly turned around and asked. Oh? Did you stop paying attention to him? Chen Yushu looked at Chu Mengyao with a smile. He's a shield my dad hired for money. He doesn't stay with me honestly. He goes out and does something stupid, and of course I don't like it. Chu Mengyao didn't know why she suspected Lin Yi, but she found a good reason for herself. Lin Yi was hired by her father, so he must be worthy of the salary. Then talk to him and tell him not to be unfaithful and that he can only be your shield, Chen Yushu suggested very casually. What do you mean, I'm alone? Chu Mengyao blushed. Xiaoshu, what you said is so evil and ambiguous. Oh, he's yours to begin with. It's your dad who hired him, not mine, Chen Yushu said matter-of-factly. If you think that's inappropriate, then let him be my shield. He might not be useful in high school now, but maybe he can be in college. Go to hell. You have your brother, why do you need a shield? Chu Mengyao smiled, but she felt a little uncomfortable, especially since Chen Yushu seemed to have taken something from her. When Lin Yi entered the classroom, Zhong Pinliang instinctively shrank his neck. He had already been scolded by his father, who told him to behave himself in the future. In his opinion, all this was Lin Yi's fault. But he also knew that he was no match for Lin Yi with his bare hands. Not to mention bare hands, even Brother Black Panther with a pistol was no match for Lin Yi. This kid was too fierce. So Zhong Pinliang wanted revenge, but he knew he couldn't use his usual methods. He was waiting for an opportunity, a chance to teach Lin Yi a lesson in some other way. As for Kang Xiaobo, Zhong Pinliang thought carefully after returning home yesterday. Since Lin Yi was so protective of him, he should let the guy go. If he beat him up, he'd only to be beaten up by Lin Yi later. That would be a loss. "Hey, boss, you're finally here." Kang Xiaobo was excited to see Lin Yi. He waved to him as soon as he entered the classroom. "What are you doing? Sitting there waving? Do you think you're the president?" Lin Yi laughed, kicked Kang Xiaobo, and sat down in his seat. "Boss, you don't know, Zhong Pinliang was very low-key today. He didn't bother me when you didn't come," Kang Xiaobo said. "Isn't that good?" Lin Yi asked. "Nothing happened today, right?" "No, it was just something that happened yesterday. The school just gave a brief notice, saying it was someone from outside the school causing trouble and they've been detained by the police," Kang Xiaobo said. "Shit. Zhong Pinliang's family has connections, and the school is protecting him. Everyone knows those people were hired by Zhong Pinliang." How? Lin Yi had already heard from Uncle Fu today that since Zhong Pinliang's uncle was a director of Pengzhan Group, he was naturally a shareholder of the school, so it was normal for the school to protect Zhong Pinliang. "By the way, boss, guess how everyone describes you now?" Kang Xiaobo said excitedly, his voice low. "Describe me? Describe me about what?" Lin Yi was a little confused. "Boss, you're now one of the foremost bad boys in school. You've replaced Zhong Pinliang and successfully become the third of the new four," Kang Xiaobo said, as if he was boasting about something worth mentioning. Foremost bad boys. Lin Yi felt a chill run down his spine. When did he become one of the foremost bad boys? He'd always maintained a low profile, barely even daring to perform his best on exams, and yet he'd become famous like this? Furthermore, Kang Xiaobo acted as if being one of the four bad boys was a matter of honor, leaving Lin Yi speechless. "Yet, big brother, if you beat up Big Two, you'll be the second of the four," Kang Xiaobo added. Second? Lin Yi's face was furious. Second of the four bad boys wasn't even as good as Big Three. But there was nothing Lin Yi could do about it. After all, the fight with the outsiders yesterday had happened. Even though it was Black Panther who had come to school to cause trouble, others wouldn't think so. They'd probably think he was one of those brawlers who loved to fight. Since he'd beaten up Zhong Pinliang's men, he naturally deserved to be one of the four bad boys on campus. The ringing of the bell interrupted Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo's conversation. While Lin Yi wasn't too impressed by the title of the four bad boys, he couldn't control what others said. But after thinking about it, Lin Yi felt that since he already had this image, it would be easier for him to be a shield for Chu Mengyao in the future. When he stood there, others would think, "Who dares to mess with me, or I'm always so domineering." The last class on Friday was the physical education class. The so-called physical education class is a free activity class where students can go out for activities or stay in the classroom to study. It is the only unified relaxing class for the senior year every week. Even those students who study very hard will basically choose to relax in this class. They can walk around the school or visit the audio-visual stores, snack streets, jewelry stores, etc. in front of the school. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu left the classroom together, and Zhong Pinliang also called his two followers and ran out. Although he has now made a truce with Lin Yi, his pursuit of Chu Mengyao has not stopped. He followed her out to see if there was a chance to show his affection to Chu Mengyao. Chapter 84 Two-Dimensional Beautiful Girl. Lin Yi wasn't worried about Zhong Pinliang's behavior. While he might be a bit of a challenge at school, he definitely wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary. Not to mention the fact that Chu Mengyao was accompanied by the quirky girl Chen Yashu. Even Chu Mengyao's family background wasn't something Zhong Pinliang could do with anything. If he openly used force on Chu Mengyao, even if his uncle was a shareholder of the Pengzhan Group, Chu Pengzhan wouldn't let him off easily. So, Lin Yi had no plans to follow Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu. In fact, even if Lin Yi wanted to, Chu Mengyao's personality wouldn't let him. So, Lin Yi might as well do his own thing. "Boss, let's go to the snack street in front of the school for some barbecue later." Kang Xiaobo had made an appointment with Lin Yi after school last night, but he wasn't free, so he wanted to take advantage of physical education class to have a couple of drinks with him. He'd been in high school for 3 years, and he'd lied to be 18, but he felt like he was feeling his most manly these past few days. "Okay," Lin Yi, who hadn't eaten lunch, happily agreed. Lin Yi could leave without worry after placing the things he'd brought back from the hotel in his desk, shielding it with a few books to prevent them from falling out. By the time they left the classroom, most of the students had already left. Aside from a few nerdy students, there was no one else in the room. These nerdy students couldn't be expected to go out and play. They spent almost all their waking hours buried in their books. As they walked down the stairs, Kang Xiaobo subconsciously slowed down his pace as he passed Class 9, Grade 3. Lin Yi was puzzled by his behavior and was about to question him when Kang Xiaobo excitedly pulled Lin Yi aside, pointing ahead and whispering excitedly, "Tang Yun! Tang Yun!" Lin Yi was startled and instinctively looked forward, only to see a girl exit Class 9, Grade 3, not far away. After leaving the classroom, she headed towards the stairs, so Lin Yi couldn't quite get a good look. By the time Kang Xiaobo called out, it was too late. Lin Yi only caught a glimpse of her profile, then a ponytail. The girl was tall in her school uniform, though the loose fit prevented her from revealing her exact figure. But since she was called a school belle, she must be pretty good. It was just a fleeting glimpse, but she gave off a sense of a too girlish beauty, with a strong preppy vibe. She was indeed one of those popular, everyday school beauties. How is it? How is it? Kang Xiaobo danced with excitement, as if he'd won the lottery. I didn't see clearly. What can you see behind her? Lin Yi patted Kang Xiaobo. Why are you so excited? She's not your girlfriend. Hey, of course not. But just meeting her, just glimpsing her from afar, is exciting enough. Boss, don't you think it's fate? Kang Xiaobo's spirits remained high. You see Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu every day, so why don't you have epilepsy? Lin Yi was amused. Looking at him now, his dancing and gesticulating really did look like he was having an epileptic seizure. That's different, isn't it? I don't have any interest in Chu Mengyao or Chen Yashu anymore. There's no way they'd be interested in me. I'm not talented, and I'm not wealthy. Why would a young lady like me? But Tang Yun is different. She's closer to us, and comes from an ordinary family. At least she's a little tempting, Kang Xiaobo said. How? Lin Yi chuckled. But there was no denying that Kang Xiaobo was right. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu drove Bentleys to and from school and lived in villas. Without a certain level of family background, one wouldn't dare to make a move on them. Boss, why don't you go after them? You're so popular right now, famous throughout the school. I'm sure Tang Yun must have heard of you too, Kang Xiaobo suddenly suggested. Huh? Lin Yi was stunned. Isn't she your dream girl? Hey, not only mine, but also the dream girl of many boys in the school. Kang Xiaobo laughed and said, but dream girls are for dreaming. I know myself well. Do you think I can win 5 million? It's possible. Lin Yi nodded, thinking, when you buy lottery tickets, ask me for advice. Maybe my jade pendant will work and you will really win 5 million. Damn, Kang Xiaobo was speechless for a moment, rolled his eyes and said, I think the chances of Tang Yun falling in love with me are smaller than my chances of winning 5 million. Now you know it, right? I'm just fantasizing in my mind, but I think you have a chance. Come on, why don't you say that Zhong Pinliang has more hope? He was also one of the 4 evil young masters before, why didn't I see him catching up? Lin Yi shook his head. He didn't want to stir up any scandal, otherwise Chu Mengyao would have a hard time explaining it. Do you know where I'm taking you? Kang Xiaobo asked mysteriously. Where? Aren't we going to eat barbecue? Lin Yi asked back. It's barbecue, yes, but do you know who sells that barbecue? Kang Xiaobo winked. You don't want to tell me that the barbecue is sold by Tang Yun, do you? Lin Yi was a little amused by Kang Xiaobo's mysteriousness. Bingo! Kang Xiaobo clapped his hands and said, it's Tang Yun's mother's. Tang Yun's mother's. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment. Not that mother's, I mean Tang Yun's mother's. After saying that, Kang Xiaobo felt that his mother's didn't sound good, so he coughed twice and said, it's her mother's barbecue stall. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Boss, let me tell you, Tang Yun usually helps her mother with a stall during pay class. If we go get some barbecue now, maybe we'll see her. Kang Xiaobo grabbed Lin Yi and quickened his pace. Come on, let's follow Tang Yun. Following Kang Xiaobo's excitement, Lin Yi felt his long dormant heart rejuvenate, brimming with renewed energy. For the past few years, he'd been constantly on assassinations or carrying out dangerous missions, surrounded by gunfire and rarely experiencing moments of relaxation. Only then did Lin Yi realize that these were the things he should be doing at his age, weren't they? As Kang Xiaobo dragged him along to follow the school beauty, Lin Yi felt a surge of excitement. Following a school beauty was something many teenagers of his age did. As expected, Tang Yun headed towards the snack street in front of the school, with Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo following closely behind. The people at school were in groups of 2 or 3, so no one noticed they were following her. In fact, Lin Yi discovered that behind Tang Yun, there were at least 3 or 4 groups of people doing the same thing. Chapter 85 Kill him and you will be the second. What Kang Xiaobo knew, Zhu Ruiming naturally knew too. After the third class in the afternoon, he and a group of his men arrived early at the snack street outside the school. They went to Tang Yun's mother's barbecue stall, ordered some skewers and beer, and sat there waiting for Tang Yun. Tang Yun's mother knew Zhu Ruiming, and knew he was a school bully. Normally, he wouldn't patronize her stall, but today, she didn't know why he brought so many people to eat there. Tang's mother was still a little afraid of Zhu Ruiming. There was a seafood vendor in the snack street who had given Zhu Ruiming an upset stomach, and the next day, Zhu Ruiming and his men smashed his stall. Not only that, but the vendor was beaten so badly that he didn't come back for several days. Zhu Ruiming's dominance intimidated the other vendors in the snack street, and they all tried to find out his identity. They discovered he was one of the 4 school bullies. From then on, whoever Zhu Ruiming patronized became extremely cautious, fearing any potential problems. When settling the bill, they even gave a very low discount, fearing Zhu Ruiming would be unhappy. Tang's mother wasn't the only one selling barbecue on the street. Zhu Ruiming and his family had previously eaten at a barbecue stall at the front of the street. Tang's mother secretly congratulated herself on this, as such a small business wouldn't make much money anyway. If anything went wrong, the losses would be more than enough. Hey guys, please enjoy. Tang's mother carefully placed several grilled chicken wings on Zhu Ruiming's table. But the more careful she was, the more likely she was to make a mistake. As she placed the wings, her hand trembled, and the seasoning on the wings flung off, landing on the legs of a fat, square-faced man standing next to Zhu Ruiming, leaving a greasy stain. I'm sorry, Tang's mother was at a loss. She was truly terrified of these young masters, afraid they would get up and smash their stall if they displeased her. How about I help you clean it up and wash it? Since her layoff, Tang's mother had relied on this barbecue stall to support her family. My husband's leg was injured and he was bedridden, but the factory's compensation for the injury hadn't arrived. After several attempts to get it, the factory bosses rudely kicked him out. Tang's mother was a typical housewife living at the bottom of society, timid and somewhat materialistic. Yet, she had to support the family on her own, earning money for her daughter's education and her husband's medical care. It's okay. The fat man with his square face didn't show any anger. He casually wiped the seasoning off his pants and said nonchalantly, "How dare I bother you, auntie, to wash my pants? Brother Ming will kill me. You'll be my elder in the future, you brat." Zhu Ruiming tapped the fat man on the forehead. "Are you flattering me now, Helhui?" The fat man laughed, and the other students who had come with Zhu Ruiming also laughed unrestrainedly. Tang's mother looked at the fat man with a panicked look, unsure of what he meant or what the others were laughing at. But the only thing he understood was that this fat man with a square face didn't seem to intend to pursue his own responsibility. Tang's mother breathed a sigh of relief and said carefully, "Then I'll treat you this meal. How can that be? Is our brother Ming the kind of person who eats without paying?" The fat man with a square face waved his hand and said, "Even if he doesn't pay for other people's food, he should pay for yours. Besides, we're family from now on, so we can't be short of money." Zhu Ruiming seemed very proud of what the fat man said, and a smile played on his face. This fat man with a square face was really smart. It seemed that her kindness to him was not in vain. Tang's mother was getting more and more confused. She didn't know what this fat man with a square face was talking about. What did he mean by "our family has no shortage of money"? What did he mean? At this moment, Tang Yun walked over from a distance. The fat man with a square face didn't bother to please Tang's mother. He suddenly stood up, shook his fat body, and whistled with his hands. Zhu Ruiming's other followers joined him in whistling and making faces at Tang Yun. "Sister-in-law is here, sister-in-law is here," the fat man with a square face shouted. Tang Yun's face paled when she saw Zhu Ruiming and his men, and heard the fat man's nonsense. She hadn't expected Zhu Ruiming to find her way here, and to say such nonsense in front of her mother. Zhu Ruiming had previously written a love letter to Tang Yun, and Tang Yun had ruthlessly rejected it. But Zhu Ruiming seemed completely unconcerned, clinging to her with a playful smile until the bell rang. when Tang Yin fled back to the classroom. After 2 days of silence, Tang Yun had assumed Zhu Ruiming had given up after being rejected, but she had never imagined he would do such a thing. How heartbroken would her mother be if she thought she was having a premature crush at school? Tang Yun stopped, not daring to approach. Zhu Ruiming's passionate gaze frightened her, and she lowered her head, a faint blush spreading across her face, humiliated and irritated. "Boss, Zhu Ruiming's gang is up ahead." Kang Xiaobo and Lin Yi, following Tang Yun, witnessed Zhu Ruiming and his men teasing her. Kang Xiaobo was immediately enraged. "This guy's bullying Tang Yun, oh? So his name is Zhu Ruiming." Lin Yi was stunned, recognizing the man leading the group nearby as the one he'd hit with a basketball a few days earlier, leaving his face bloodied. "You know him?" Kang Xiaobo was taken aback by Lin Yi's words. "He's the second in command of the 4 campus bullies. I was talking about him earlier. If you beat him up, you'll be the second in command?" Lin Yi shook his head and gave a wry smile, as if he'd already beaten that guy a few days ago. "I heard Zhu Ruiming was rejected when he pursued Tang Yun. I didn't expect him to resort to such despicable tactics, creating a fait accompli in front of Tang Yin's mother." Kang Xiaobo heard what the fat, square-faced man was shouting and immediately clenched his fists in excitement. Lin Yi didn't think anything of it. Although Zhu Ruiming was abominable, he hadn't provoked him, and he had no conflict of interest with him, so Lin Yi didn't bother to care about his trivial matters. "Sister-in-law, come and sit down. Brother Ming has already ordered the dishes, and you're the only one missing." The fat man with a stern face winked at Tang Yin, almost wanting to squeeze his eyeballs out. "That's right, Yuner, don't be shy. We'll have to tell your aunt about our affairs sooner or later." Zhu Ruiming shamelessly waved at Tang Yin. He was unwilling to accept Tang Yin's rejection before, and at the instigation of one of his men, he came up with this desperate move. Establishing a fait accompli in front of Tang Yin's mother. He knew that Tang Yin's mother was a housewife, and although his reputation at school was not very good, he was still young and rich. As long as Tang Yin's mother agreed to this matter, Tang Yin would not be able to say anything even if she objected. Chapter 86 The Third Brother's Men. Tang's mother hadn't quite grasped their meaning at first, but when she saw Tang Yun and heard how they addressed her, she immediately understood what was going on. Her heart sank. Could her daughter really be in a premature relationship? Seeing her daughter's pale face, she couldn't tell if it was because she was afraid she'd find out, or because Zhu Ruiming had forced her into being his girlfriend. Regardless, Tang's mother felt nothing but sadness. She couldn't afford to offend a young master like Zhu Ruiming, and she knew her words were largely meaningless. Over the years, Tang's mother had witnessed the fickleness of human nature and realized how insignificant her own power was. Take the electronics factory where her husband used to work. A machine damaged his sciatic nerve, and now he's paralyzed and bedridden, unable to care for himself. Yet, he hasn't received a penny of compensation from the factory. A small, privately owned electronics factory owner, relying on a few connections, had no recourse. Furthermore, their original employment contract had been tampered with, leaving her with no recourse. Because she had gone to the factory a few times to ask for medical expenses, her boss threatened to bring trouble upon her family, threatening to have her daughter raped and burn down her house. Tang's mother had no choice but to give up, considering she was a vulnerable member of the family. The family's livelihood fell entirely on her shoulders. Fortunately, her daughter had done well, earning first place in her class last semester. Not only was her tuition waived, but she also received a scholarship, bringing some comfort to the family. Today, upon hearing the news that her daughter had a boyfriend, Tang's mother was stunned. While she was furious with her daughter, she also wondered if Zhu Ruiming had forced her into it. If he truly loved Tang Yun, it wouldn't be a problem. Zhu Ruiming's family was well off, and her daughter wouldn't be at a disadvantage if she followed him. She was worried he was just playing around and would dump her when he got tired of him. Although Tang's mother didn't know much about the lives of wealthy young men, she had heard a little. Tang Yun blushed and wanted to argue, but she hesitated, thinking of Zhu Ruiming's reputation at school and the rumors. Rumor has it that Zhu Ruiming once secretly dragged a girl from school to the outdoor restroom and molested her. He later compensated the girl and helped her transfer to another school. While it was just a rumor, the girl's transfer was indeed true. However, since her family had received a bribe, they naturally wouldn't repeat it. Tang Yun was afraid she'd really angered Zhu Ruiming and that he might do anything. While she wouldn't remain silent like that girl, she insisted on an explanation. But what good would an explanation do? Tang Yun lowered her head, silent, tears welling in her eyes, feeling deeply wronged. She felt a little resentful of her mother for not sending Zhu Ruiming away, but then she realized her mother was also vulnerable, perhaps even more helpless. What good was the title of school belle? Why was she so unlucky? She usually kept a low profile, never wearing makeup or anything other than her school uniform, yet she still attracted attention. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashi were also school belle, but would Zhu Ruiming dare to do this to them? This bunch of trash, Kang Xiaobo has been a man these 2 days. Seeing Tang Yun being bullied by Zhu Ruiming, he couldn't help it. He clenched his fists with excitement and rushed over. Lin Yi didn't expect Kang Xiaobo to care about this little thing, and he really didn't realize that for the sake of the goddess in his heart, even boys like Kang Xiaobo who are timid and afraid of things have burst out. This day is really troublesome. Lin Yi wanted to keep a low profile for a few days, but he didn't expect that he couldn't keep a low profile at all now. Kang Xiaobo rushed over. Can he ignore it? Did you watch that guy Zhu Ruiming beat Kang Xiaobo? Zhu Ruiming, are you still a man? If you fail to pursue Tang Yun, you can use such a despicable trick to force others to submit. Kang Xiaobo rushed over and stood in front of Tang Yun. Zhu Ruiming was waiting for Tang Yun to make a choice. This was the effect he wanted, forcing Tang Yun to make a choice. He came here to make a gesture, that was a threat. By standing at Tang's mother's barbecue stall, he was telling Tang Yun, if you don't agree today, neither you nor your mother will stop causing trouble, and your mother's barbecue stall will be closed. Therefore, Zhu Ruiming was 50% sure that Tang Yun would agree to his request and become his girlfriend out of necessity. It was precisely because of this concern that Tang Yun kept her head down and remained silent. She was worried about her own safety and her mother's barbecue stall. She knew that if she quarreled with Zhu Ruiming today, her mother's barbecue would definitely fail. If Zhu Ruiming and his minions continued to cause trouble every day, their family's livelihood would be ruined. Just as Tang Yun was at a loss, Kang Xiaobo suddenly rushed over. Not only was Zhu Ruiming stunned, but Tang Yun was also stunned. Who is this person? She didn't even know him. Which one is your mother's? Seeing that Tang Yun was about to be forced to make a choice, Zhu Ruiming suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He was furious and pointed at Kang Xiaobo, his voice becoming gloomy. Kang Xiaobo's courage vanished as he stared at Zhu Ruiming's murderous gaze. He'd just exploded, and that was it. He wasn't as strong as Lin Yi. In a fight, he was no match for Zhu Ruiming, and he felt a little discouraged by Zhu Ruiming's shouting. But he also knew he couldn't afford to lose his nerve. At worst, the boss was right behind him. If he got beaten, wouldn't the boss have to fight back? Kang Xiaobo stiffened his neck and said, I'm the subordinate of the third of the 4 campus bullies. The 4 campus bullies? The third? A subordinate? Zhu Ruiming was stunned, a little confused by Kang Xiaobo's ridicule. What nonsense. Are you Zhong Pinliang's man? Damn, Zhong Pinliang has been punished and still refuses to behave, and you dare to meddle in my business? Fuck you. Your boss doesn't even dare to meddle in Brother Ming's business. Who are you? The fat man with a square face pushed Kang Xiaobo hard. Go home and tell your boss I'm going to fuck his mother. The fat man with a square face had obviously misunderstood that Kang Xiaobo was Zhong Pinliang's subordinate, so he was extremely unscrupulous. The news of Zhong Pinliang being beaten by the transfer student had spread, especially since Black Panther was arrested and taken to the police station. This time, he might get several years in prison. So Zhong Pinliang lost his support and lost face, so Zhu Ruiming's men naturally didn't give him face. Whose mother do you want to fuck? A flat but obviously cold voice echoed in the fat man's ears. Chapter 87 You haven't paid yet. Although Lin Yi had never known his mother since childhood, he wouldn't let this guy off lightly if he wanted to fuck her. Lin Yi already resented being an orphan, and now this guy brought his mother into the mix. Pa! Lin Yi slapped the fat man with his square face across the face, sending him flying. Lin Yi's force was so strong that the fat man, despite his massive size, spun around like a top before collapsing headfirst. A clear row of 5-finger mountains marks were visible on his left cheek, making his already flabby face even more flabby. Whose mother are you trying to fuck? Lin Yi coldly looked at the fat man wailing on the ground. Who the hell are you? You dare to hit me? Zhu Ruiming didn't get a good look at Lin Yi, as he had his back to him. While the sight of Lin Yi sending the fat man sprawling with a single blow was somewhat terrifying, Zhu Ruiming didn't think much of it, as he had caught him off guard. Zhu Ruiming subconsciously thought that the person who came was also one of Zhong Pinliang's men, so he reached out and pushed Lin Yi. Is your face okay? Lin Yi turned his head to look at Zhu Ruiming. Lin Yi, Zhu Ruiming finally recognized who the old man in front of him was. He also finally understood why he was able to slap the fat man with a square face and send him flying. I'm asking you a question, is your face okay? Lin Yi looked at Zhu Ruiming. It's okay. Zhu Ruiming suddenly felt a little timid. This Lin Yi was simply a lunatic. He even beat Brother Black Panther to tears. How could he afford to provoke him? And what Lin Yi was asking was obviously whether the blow from the basketball he hit Zhu Ruiming with that day was okay. Oh, Lin Yi nodded, and suddenly reached out and slapped Zhu Ruiming in the face. The nose immediately bleeds and half of his face is swollen. But Lin Yi didn't slap him away like he did before. You're in trouble again, get out of here. Zhu Ruiming covered his face, feeling so aggrieved. What the hell was going on? He was just picking up a girl, and he ran into this evil star, and it seemed like he hadn't provoked him, right? It was just a fat guy with a square face who said fuck your mother, but that wasn't an insult to Lin Yi. Was there anyone who would take the initiative to get insulted these days? However, the situation was pressing, and Zhu Ruiming had to retreat. He didn't have the courage to fight Lin Yi. Of the 36 strategies, running away was the best strategy. He turned around and glared at Kang Xiaobo hatefully, thinking that this kid had caused all the trouble. However, when Zhu Ruiming saw Kang Xiaobo's smug smile, he was stunned. Thinking of what Kang Xiaobo had said before, his heart suddenly jumped. Could it be that the third of the 4 school bullies that Kang Xiaobo had mentioned before was Lin Yi? Yes, there were people in the school saying that Lin Yi had replaced Zhong Pinliang and became the third of the 4 new school bullies. Damn it! Zhu Ruiming was so depressed. Can you at least explain yourself? If you say you're Lin Yi's subordinate, I'm not going to argue with you. I'll just turn around and leave. However, Zhu Ruiming was thinking this way now. If Kang Xiaobo had just suddenly said he was Lin Yi's subordinate, Zhu Ruiming might not have believed him. Let's go. Zhu Ruiming had the fat man pulled up from the ground and sullenly left Tang Mu's barbecue stall. The vendors around Tang Mu's barbecue stall stared at Lin Yi in astonishment, wondering who he was. However, Zhu Ruiming and his friends knew him. Seeing Lin Yi hit Zhu Ruiming didn't even dare to say a word and just ran away in shame, staring at Lin Yi with awe. This was a character even more powerful than Zhu Ruiming. Tang Guyan, are you okay? This was Kang Xiaobo's first close encounter with his dream girl. Although he knew that there was no chance for him and Tang Yun, just being able to exchange a few words was good. Now that he had this opportunity, Kang Xiaobo naturally didn't want to miss it. Kang Xiaobo's words stuttered slightly due to nervousness. Tang Yun frowned slightly. She had also heard about Lin Yi, the third of the 4 new school bullies. Seeing that the boy who had assaulted someone earlier was Lin Yi, and that Kang Xiaobo was his subordinate, she naturally became wary. Word of Lin Yi's deeds had spread. He had just transferred in, and he had beaten Zhong Pinliang, and now he had slapped Zhu Ruiming. Tang Yun was even more afraid of him. She felt that he might not have good intentions and was trying to curry favor with her by hitting Zhu Ruiming. As for Kang Xiaobo, Tang Yun had come to view him as Lin Yi's pawn and had no good impression of him. When he asked her a question, she simply said, I'm fine. Then she quickly ran to Tang Yun's mother's side. Mom, hey. Tang Yun realized that it was Zhu Ruiming who was pestering her daughter. While feeling relieved, she also feared Zhu Ruiming's retaliation. But seeing how Lin Yi had managed to subdue Zhu Ruiming, his heart perked up again. Lin Yi, in both looks and demeanor, was far superior to Zhu Ruiming. A boyfriend for his daughter wouldn't be a bad idea. At least she wouldn't have to worry about Zhu Ruiming's problems. However, Tang's mother was just idiomatic. She didn't want her daughter to suffer. Kang Xiaobo noticed Tang Yun's disinterest in him and felt a little discouraged. However, he also understood that the gap between him and Tang Yun was essentially non-existent, so he stopped dwelling on the matter. Auntie, give me 20 skewers of lamb, 2 lamb chops, 2 chicken necks, 2 tofu rolls, and 2 bottles of beer. Kang Xiaobo quickly adjusted his position, his spirits rising again. Although he hadn't won Tang Yun's favor, at least he had managed to hold his head high in front of Zhu Ruiming. What's so great about you? Aren't you all just slapped in the face in front of my boss? Okay, Tang's mother quickly responded. These two were even more formidable than Zhu Ruiming, so she naturally had to be careful with them. Zhu Ruiming, wait a minute, Lin Yi suddenly called out to Zhu Ruiming, who had walked a short distance away. Zhu Ruiming was startled by Lin Yi's voice. He didn't know what Lin Yi was going to do. Hadn't he already told him to leave? Why was he calling him back? Although he didn't want to go back, he had to. He could have run away, but he couldn't escape the temple. If Lin Yi came back to bother him, he wouldn't be able to handle it. Lin Yi, is there anything else? Zhu Ruiming asked, turning around with a bitter face. You haven't paid yet, Lin Yi said calmly. In reality, Lin Yi felt sorry for Tang's mother. It wasn't easy for her to run the barbecue stall alone, so he offered to help if he could. It was just a small favor. Oh, Zhu Ruiming breathed a sigh of relief, wondering if Lin Yi had set his sights on Tang Yun. Why was he so protective of their family? Damn it, but if that's the case, then I have no chance. If I compete with Lin Yi for a woman, wouldn't that be courting death? Zhu Ruiming was so depressed. Lin Yi, I'll remember this. Chapter 88 Let you pretend. Here's 100 yuan, no need for change. Zhu Ruiming pulled out 100 yuan bill and slapped it in front of Tang's mother. He didn't want to stay even a minute longer. With Lin Yi watching him, he felt uncomfortable. How can I do that? Tang's mother asked for change, but Zhu Ruiming waved his hand with a wry smile, then turned and left without a backward glance. Tang's mother had initially assumed that Zhu Ruiming would never get his meal back. They had ordered 50 or 60 yuan worth of food and drinks. Tang's mother only made 100 or 80 yuan a day from her stall, and now she had lost more than half of that. Although she felt bad, she didn't dare ask Zhu Ruiming for it, so she could only blame herself for her bad luck. Unexpectedly, at Lin Yi's words, Zhu Ruiming obediently paid, even giving him a few dozen yuan more without even asking for change. She couldn't help but feel grateful to Lin Yi. She wondered, these same young men from the same school, why was there such a huge disparity between their conduct? Lin Yi looked so gentle and refined, while Zhu Ruiming looked as if he had bully written all over his face. But the bully, slapped by the refined man, didn't even dare to speak out, and fled in disgrace. Thinking of this, she began to look at Lin Yi with a more agreeable eye. Seeing Tang Yun still standing there, glaring at Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo, she couldn't tell what she was thinking. She suddenly said angrily, Yuner, what are you doing? Why don't you help greet your classmates? Tang Yun didn't expect Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo to just sit there and eat at their barbecue stall. She felt that Kang Xiaobo's earlier confrontation with Zhu Ruiming was most likely Lin Yi's instigation. He probably had the same idea as Zhu Ruiming, and was targeting her too. Besides that, Tang Yun didn't know what else could possibly attract the attention of these young men. Although Lin Yi wasn't as outspoken as Zhu Ruiming, being more refined and polite and not trying to get close to her, Tang Yun felt that Lin Yi was even more hypocritical. Just now, she'd been brawling with Zhu Ruiming and the fat, cross-faced man without a care in the world, and now she was sitting here like a good student. Who was she pretending to be? Tang Yun was even more furious when she saw her mother seemed to have a good impression of Lin Yi and even invited her to serve them. It was just 100 yuan for you, how could you be so easily fooled? Tang Yun was like a little hedgehog. Her experiences over the years had made her heart tightly locked up. Whenever a boy approached her, Tang Yun was already on guard. However, since her mother had called her, no matter how reluctant she was, she had to answer. She went to the stall to get 2 bottles of beer, turned around and placed them on the table between Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo, then, without even a glance at them, returned to Tang's mother. Wine opener. Kang Xiaobo saw that Tang Yun had only taken the beer and not the opener, and that she seemed a little unhappy, so he could only smile and ask cautiously, Yuner, what's wrong with you? Open the wine for your classmate. Tang's mother didn't know what was wrong with Tang Yun. She was fine just now, but suddenly she turned into a cold face. When facing Zhu Ruiming, you lowered your head and looked wronged, but when facing Lin Yi, you just looked at him and said he was polite. If Tang Yun knew what her mother thought, she would be furious. He is polite? Just now, he slapped the fat guy with a square face away. Is that polite? No need. Lin Yi smiled, not knowing how he had offended this little beauty. Tang Yun's attitude was not good. Lin Yi naturally saw it, but he didn't care, just thinking it was her little girl's temper. As he said that, Lin Yi picked up the bottle, flicked his thumb on the bottle cap, and the beer was opened. He did the same with Kang Xiaobo's bottle. You're only easygoing because of your classmates. If it were Zhu Ruiming, he'd have thrown the business out of business. Tang's mother gave her daughter a helpless look. Don't you want me to run the business anymore? Or go back to school? You're not needed here anymore. Tang Yun, being scolded by her mother for no reason, felt incredibly wronged. What did she mean by my classmate is easygoing? How could you be so easygoing? How could the 4 school bullies be easygoing? He looks so polite, don't you know he's just putting on an act? Is he trying to woo your daughter? Okay, the tofu rolls are ready. Hurry and take them over. Tang's mother handed the 2 baked dry tofu rolls to Tang Yun. Oh, Tang Yun took the rolls angrily and slowly walked towards Lin Yi. The more she looked at Lin Yi's calm face, the more she felt annoyed. When she reached Lin Yi, Tang Yun, finding the courage from nowhere, pretended to be casual and stepped on the back of his foot. Humph, aren't you just pretending to be polite? You're trying to please my mother? No way. I won't let you. Since you're trying to act polite in front of me to please me, fine. I'll stomp you to death and see if you get mad. Lin Yi was stunned by Tang Yun's inexplicable step. He looked up at the sullen Tang Yun. Although the force didn't hurt at all, he still had to defend himself after being stepped on for no reason. Lin Yi had just started to speak, and Tang Yun's heart was slightly excited. I told you to act, so go ahead and act. If you act like this again, I'll treat you the same way. But she smiled apologetically. Sorry, I accidentally stepped on you. Oh, it's nothing. Seeing that Tang Yun had already admitted her mistake, Lin Yi didn't know what to say. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. However, after Tang Yun apologized, she didn't immediately remove her foot. Instead, she stepped on him twice more forcefully before removing it. A sly smile flashed in her eyes. She put down the dried tofu roll and quickly ran away. Lin Yi was speechless. It was obvious that Tang Yun did it on purpose. This girl was so cruel. Lin Yi really didn't know what to say. Did he look like someone who was easy to bully? Before, it was Chen Yusu and Chu Mengyao, but Chen Yusu was clever and caught his handle, so that was it. And Chu Mengyao's father was his employer, so Lin Yi couldn't say anything. But Tang Yun also took the initiative to step on him. Forget it, I'm too lazy to bother with her. If this matter gets out, people will laugh to death. The dignified eagle was actually bullied by a few women boss. Tang Yun seems to have something against you? Did you provoke her? Kang Xiaobo also noticed something was wrong. Tang Yun seemed to be targeting Lin Yi. How should I know? This is the first time I met her today. Lin Yi shook his head. Did you accidentally offend her before? Kang Xiaobo felt that this was indeed the case when he heard Lin Yi's words. He had just transferred to the school a few days ago. And today was his first time meeting Tang Yun. How could there be any conflict? However, Kang Xiaobo was still worried that Lin Yi might have offended Tang Yun inadvertently in the past. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, It's Your Treat. She's not the most beautiful I've ever seen, but she's definitely one of the best. How could I not remember her? Lin Yi shrugged innocently. That's true, Kang Xiaobo nodded in agreement. Tang Yun's beauty was the kind you couldn't easily forget after just one look. Otherwise, so many boys wouldn't be so captivated by her. Never mind, let's eat. I'm hungry. Lin Yi unceremoniously grabbed a dried tofu roll and stuffed it into his mouth. Not bad, quite delicious, of course. Look whose mother baked it. Kang Xiaobo chuckled contentedly at Lin Yi's praise. Lin Yi glanced at Kang Xiaobo, unsure what to say. You sound like your mother, ahem. Kang Xiaobo coughed awkwardly. Eat. Come on, boss, I toast you. With that, Kang Xiaobo raised his beer. Lin Yi smiled and raised his bottle, clinking it with Kang Xiaobo's. Soon, the other items Kang Xiaobo ordered arrived, but Tang Yun seemed to be looking for trouble, either slamming skewers onto the table or deliberately bumping into Lin Yi. Is this little cutie quite interesting? Lin Yi looked at the irritated Tang Yun and found it somewhat amusing. She was trying to get him out. They had a big class that evening, so Lin Yi and Kang Xiaobo didn't drink much. They only finished their bottle and devoured the food on the table. Kang Xiaobo stood up to pay the bill. Auntie, how much is it? Yuner, go and calculate it. Tang's mother had several barbecues from other tables to attend to, so she sent Tang Yun to calculate the bill. 80 yuan. Tang Yun came over to Lin Yi's table and glared at him secretly, thinking, I'm so mean, you're just pretending, huh? Kang Xiaobo was stunned. The things Yi and Lin Yi ordered would only cost around 40 yuan at most. How could it be 80? However, seeing Tang Yun's confident expression, he couldn't argue with the goddess of his heart, so he pulled a 100 yuan bill from his pocket and tried to hand it to Tang Yin. Wait a minute, Lin Yi stopped Kang Xiaobo. I think you calculated it wrong? I just calculated, 20 lamb skewers are 20 yuan, 2 lamb chops are 8 yuan, 2 chicken necks are 4 yuan, 2 tofu rolls are 2 yuan, and 2 bottles of beer are 4 yuan. That's 38 yuan, right? Tang Yun didn't expect Lin Yi to start a detailed calculation with her. Her face flushed, and she felt a little uncomfortable. She wasn't a greedy person. The reason she said 80 yuan was because she was annoyed by Lin Yi's previous politeness, and she was always looking for something to expose him. After several deliberate provocations, Lin Yi didn't respond, which made Tang Yun even more angry. She thought, since you like to pretend so much, then fine, I'll charge you a little more money to vent my anger. As soon as Tang Xiaomo said 80 yuan, she was questioned by Lin Dejing and Page. Yuner, what's wrong with you? Why are you charging such a ridiculous price? Tang's mother was busy grilling, but Tang Yun wasn't far away from her as she went to pay the bill, so she could clearly hear her conversation with Lin Yi. Seeing her daughter so irritated by charging a customer a ridiculous price, she became furious and began to scold him with a stern face. Tang Yun, already furious at Lin Yi, was immediately irritated by her mother's scolding. She pursed her lips in grievance, then looked up at Lin Yi, her eyes blazing with fire, wishing she could burn him to death. I don't want any money. Go away. It's my treat. I don't want to see you again. Her voice was already breaking with tears, and without waiting for Lin Yi to say anything, Tang Yun covered her face and sprinted away, not even saying goodbye to her mother, as she ran towards the school. Tang Yun's strong reaction stunned Lin Yi. He hadn't expected Tang Yun to have such a strong side. This kid, Tang's mother had no idea what was wrong with her daughter today. It was the boy in front of her who helped her out of the predicament, but not only was she not grateful, she even gave him a cold look. This made her very embarrassed, and she looked at Lin Yi apologetically. Young man, Yuner is not like this usually. She is very sensible. I don't know what happened today. I'm sorry. This meal is considered as Auntie's treat, so I won't charge you. You still have to pay. Lin Yi smiled to show that it was nothing. He touched his pocket and found exactly 40 yuan in change, so he gave it directly to Tang's mother. Here is 40. I'm a little thirsty. Take 2 bottles of mineral water. No need to change, Lin Yi said, and without waiting for Tang's mother to speak, he took out 2 bottles of mineral water from the box next to the stall, handed 1 bottle to Kang Xiaobo, and said to him, "Let's go." Kang Xiaobo came back to his senses. He was a little dumbfounded by the scene of Tang Yun just now. He stared at Tang Yun covering her face and running away. It wasn't until Lin Yi paid the bill and gave him a bottle of mineral water that he said, "Boss, why are you treating us? Didn't we agree that I'd pay?" Haha, it doesn't matter. Why don't you treat us next time? Lin Yi had already turned and walked towards the school. Kang Xiaobo hurriedly said hello to Tang's mother and followed Lin Yi. Come next time, Tang's mother nodded enthusiastically to Kang Xiaobo. Definitely, Kang Xiaobo responded. This child is so sensible. Looking at Lin Yi's back, Tang's mother sighed. She didn't know what her precious girl had done wrong. She was afraid that these 2 people would never come to patronize again next time. Boss, this thing today is so weird. Kang Xiaobo caught up with Lin Yi. Looking ahead, Tang Yun had already disappeared. She had obviously run far away. What's so weird about that? Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. You, on the other hand, be careful. Don't let Zhu Ruiming get you into trouble. Lin Yi's reminder reminded Kang Xiaobo of how badly he'd offended Zhu Ruiming and his gang. Boss, don't scare me. I just offended Zhong Pinliang, and now I've offended Zhu Ruiming. How am I supposed to get by? Don't be too ostentatious. I'm with you anyway, so they won't do anything, Lin Yi said. That's right, but boss, I think the news of you slapping Zhu Ruiming will spread soon. You'll be promoted to the second of the foremost bad boys on campus, Kang Xiaobo chuckled. How good is that? Lin Yi glared at him. Today's incident was purely your fault, and now I'm going to have to bear the reputation of a bad boy again. No way, boss. Can you just bear to watch Tang Yun get bullied? Kang Xiaobo said with an ingratiating smile. She doesn't look like someone who is easy to bully, but she bullies me. Lin Yi cursed in his heart. Damn it, This little beauty Tang only bullies the weak and fears the strong. Chapter 90 Taking out the test paper. Back at school, as he passed class 9 of senior 3, Kang Xiaobo craned his head to peer through the glass door. He looked for a long time, but couldn't see Tang Yun in the classroom. His neck was about to become as long as a giraffe's. Lin Yi pulled him back. Alright, if class 9's homeroom teacher sees you, you'll be in trouble. Kang Xiaobo retracted his head. I wonder if Tang Yun's back yet. Do you think you have a chance of catching up with her? Lin Yi asked bluntly, observing Kang Xiaobo's expression. No, Kang Xiaobo, self-aware, shook his head decisively. Why are you looking if there's no one? What a waste of time. Lin Yi patted him on the back of the head. Go back and study hard. What will you do if you don't get into college? I don't think I can catch up, but do you think you can? Kang Xiaobo smiled wryly. I thought that since you saved the girl today, Tang Yun might treat you differently. Who knew she would? Kang Xiaobo's words prompted Lin Yi to think of something else. Did Tang Yun think she was a hero saving the damsel in distress? Or was she using Zhu Ruiming as a pretext? In that case, she might have misunderstood that he, like Zhu Ruiming, was pursuing her. If that were the case, Tang Yun's unusual behavior would be understandable. What a self-aware and defensive girl. A faint smile crossed Lin Yi's lips. It was quite amusing, though. If it weren't for his mission, Lin Yi would have wanted to immerse himself in campus life, savoring the ambiguous and subtle relationships between students of his age. Let's go. Class is about to start, Lin Yi reminded Kang Xiaobo, quickening his pace. The bell for the evening class had already rung. Kang Xiaobo didn't dare linger and followed Lin Yi into the classroom for class 3-5. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu had returned long ago and were now sitting in their seats, whispering something. Chen Yashu glanced up at Lin Yi as she saw him enter, then lowered her head to continue talking to Chu Mengyao. To Lin Yi's surprise, Zhong Pinliang wasn't in the classroom. His two subordinates, Guo Xiaofu and Zhang Neipao, were present, but Zhong Pinliang's seat was the only one left vacant. However, Kang Xiaobo soon learned from others that a police car had just arrived at the school and taken Zhong Pinliang away. This result surprised Lin Yi. Could it be because of Black Panther's incident? If Black Panther hadn't managed to expose Zhong Pinliang, then this kid was unlucky. The evening tutoring class was another test, and the first hour was spent on a set of tests. After the papers were handed in, the study committee member took a stack of papers, flipped them upside down, and distributed them randomly. The teacher then explained the questions while the students reviewed them, and finally the scores were summarized. This saved the teacher time grading the papers, which was ideal for the hectic and fast-paced life of senior year, when tests were almost daily. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, the study committee member was Chen Yashu. He hadn't expected this girl to be a class leader, he hadn't realized it before. After the exam, Chen Yashu began handing out papers. When she reached Lin Yi, she didn't even look at him. She solemnly dropped a paper and went to hand out others. As she turned, Chen Yashu gave a sly smile, but quickly faltered. Chu Mengyao? Lin Yi looked at the name on the paper, speechless. How could such a coincidence be possible? He was now 100% certain that Chen Yashu had done it on purpose. Most of the boys in the class dreamed of grading Chu Mengyao's or Chen Yashu's papers one day. While it might be just one paper, the thought of it being their own work, which surely held traces of both of them, was a kind of intimate encounter, a satisfying indulgence. Unfortunately, Chen Yashu and Chu Mengyao's papers were always swapped. While suspicions of Chen Yashu abusing her position to cheat had surfaced over time, no one dared to expose the matter. This time, Chen Yashu gave Chu Mengyao's paper to Lin Yi, leaving Lin Yi's and her own papers for last. She intended to leave Lin Yi's paper for Chu Mengyao, creating a coincidence. After handing out the papers, Chen Yashu returned to her seat with both papers and placed them in front of Chu Mengyao, grinning. Sister Yao, you pick one. What do you mean? Don't we always review each other's papers? Chu Mengyao looked at Chen Yashu curiously. This time I accidentally handed out our papers, Chen Yashu explained, so, forget it. Chu Mengyao knew that Chen Yashu always did this, so mistakes were inevitable. If she wasn't paying attention, she might hand out the wrong one. Whatever, anyone will do, since it wasn't her paper, Chu Mengyao naturally didn't care. Oh, then this one will be yours. Chen Yashu tossed Lin Yi's paper to Chu Mengyao, then secretly kept her own. Lin Yi, Chu Mengyao glanced at the name on the test paper, slightly startled, and then understood something. Turning around, she looked at Chen Yushu, who was buried in her eyes and pretending nothing happened, and immediately realized that it was her doing. Xiao Shu? Oh, Sister Yao, what are you doing? Chen Yushu raised her head with a smile, as if she didn't know anything. Let me see your test paper. Chu Mengyao looked at the test paper that Chen Yushu covered tightly and was about to grab it. Huh? What's so good about this? Chen Yushu felt guilty and covered her hands even more tightly. Give it to me. Chu Mengyao forcefully snatched the test paper from Chen Yushu. Chen Yushu was afraid that the test paper would be torn up, so she had to let go. Chu Mengyao took a look at the test paper that she had snatched away and found that it was Chen Yushu's. She was so angry that she glared at him. Xiao Shu, where did you put my test paper? I gave it to Brother Arrow and asked him to take it. Chen Yushu thought evilly. Well, I'm so angry. Chu Mengyao was speechless about Chen Yushu's behavior. But fortunately, she was used to her personality and knew that she was the kind of person who wanted to cause chaos in the world, so she didn't say anything. However, Chu Mengyao's eyes were fixed on Lin Yi's test paper. She picked up the red marker and started drawing X on Lin Yi's test paper without thinking. She didn't care whether it was right or wrong. She drew from beginning to end. Finally, she drew a big 0 on the test paper, threw the marker away, and let out a big sigh of relief. She took out all her anger on the test paper. Chapter 91 Lin Yi's Sensational Achievements. Chen Yushu looked at the test paper that was scribbled beyond recognition by Chu Mengyao and couldn't help but shudder. This was too cruel. However, thinking of Lin Yi's expression when the results were announced later, Chen Yushu couldn't help but laugh secretly. Lin Yi didn't expect that his test paper would fall into Chu Mengyao's hands. He just thought that Chen Yushu gave him Chu Mengyao's test paper as a joke and didn't care. Boss, whose test paper are you marking? Kang Xiaobo turned his head and asked casually. Oh, Chu Mengyao's, Lin Yi said a little embarrassedly. Ah. No way. Kang Xiaobo widened his eyes and looked at the name on the test paper in Lin Yi's hand. He couldn't help but be stunned. Is it true? How did her test paper get to you? Don't she and Chen Yushu exchange test papers? How should I know? This is the one Chen Yushu sent me. Lin Yi shrugged. It must have been an accident, Kang Xiaobo exclaimed. Boss, you're so lucky. Chu Mengyao's test paper. So many boys in the class wanted to get a glimpse of her but never got a chance, yet it ended up in your hands. Lin Yi smiled but didn't explain. There really wasn't any way to explain it. Should he tell Kang Xiaobo that Chen Yushu did it on purpose? Kang Xiaobo would surely ask why Chen Yushu did it, and then his and Chu Mengyao's illicit relationship would inevitably be exposed. Lin Yi still graded Chu Mengyao's test paper very carefully. Although Chu Mengyao was often harsh to him, Lin Yi knew she often said one thing and meant another. Especially that night when she invited him to dinner through Chen Yushu, Lin Yi saw that Chu Mengyao was a good person at heart, just a little too willful. Although Chu Mengyao had good grades, her test papers were bound to have mistakes. While Lin Yi was grading her, he also sorted out her wrong answers on the back of the test paper, writing down the correct solutions in detail, even more detailed than what the teacher had explained at the podium. To Lin Yi's surprise, Chu Mengyao actually solved the last supplementary question. Her solution was exactly the same as the one the teacher had explained at the podium. It seemed this girl was quite diligent. However, Lin Yi knew another solution. Perhaps the teacher hadn't noticed, or perhaps they felt that a basic solution was sufficient for this supplementary question, and hadn't explained Lin Yi's more shortcut solution. Of course, no one in the class objected. This supplementary question was already quite difficult and beyond the syllabus, so few people could solve it, let alone get it right. Lin Yi also wrote his alternative solution on the back of the test paper before turning it over and calculating his score. He scored 139, a high score. Regular quizzes are usually more difficult than the actual college entrance exam. This is standard practice at these prestigious high schools. Only in this way can students improve their overall level and feel a greater sense of pressure and urgency. After explaining the last supplementary question, the homeroom teacher, Ms. Liu, asked everyone to write the name of the examiner on the back of the test paper and pass it out from back to front. This was to prevent anyone from grading carelessly or randomly. Chu Mengyao gave Lin Yi a 0 and angrily signed her name at the end of the paper. Humph, I guess even if Lin Yi saw it, he wouldn't dare to bother me. When the scores were posted, Chen Yushu held Lin Yi's paper, smirked, and said to the homeroom teacher, "Ms. Liu, Lin Yi, 0 points, huh?" Ms. Liu was stunned, and not only Ms. Liu, but also the other students in the audience who were listening attentively to the scores. In years, I haven't heard of anyone giving a score of 0. Unless the score is invalidated for cheating on the exam, even if it's just a random guess, it's impossible to get a score of 0, right? Just guessing a few multiple-choice questions would be more than a 0. Who graded the paper? Ms. Liu frowned. Chu Mengyao, Chen Yushu said with a grin. Teacher Liu nodded. She vaguely knew that this Lin Yi seemed to be behind the school board member, Chu Pengzhan. Chu Mengyao was Chu Pengzhan's daughter. Although the two of them didn't seem to have much in common at school, who knew where this Lin Yi came from? Upon his arrival, he had a violent conflict with Zhong Pinliang, Chu Mengyao's suitor. Teacher Liu was reluctant to intervene in the complexities. Such young masters and princesses were the most difficult to manage. So, upon hearing that it was Chu Mengyao who had graded the paper, Teacher Liu said nothing. Chen Yushu's voice was low, but the class was quiet, so everyone heard her words and couldn't help but glance at Lin Yi with sympathy. The boys wondered how Lin Yi had managed to offend Miss Chu and receive a 0. How unlucky. The girls, however, were a little upset. Lin Yi looked gentle and refined, reminiscent of the handsome young man in idol dramas. They were a little unhappy about Chu Mengyao giving Lin Yi a 0, but no one dared to say anything to Chu Mengyao in person. The most surprised person was Lin Yi. The moment he heard that he got a 0, his expression was indescribably strange. But he probably guessed that Chu Mengyao had probably marked his paper, so it was not surprising to get such a miraculous result. Otherwise, even if he had deliberately made mistakes in a few questions, he would not have gotten a 0. Looking at Chen Yushu's smirk, Lin Yi was speechless. 0 is 0, is there anything to be happy about? Kang Xiaobo knew that it was Chu Mengyao's paper that Lin Yi marked. When he heard Chen Yushu say that Chu Mengyao had marked Lin Yi's paper, his mouth opened into the shape of a 0, just like the score on Lin Yi's paper. There was an affair. There must be an affair. How could it be such a coincidence? Kang Xiaobo turned around and looked at Lin Yi with a questioning look on his face. Although Chu Mengyao gave Lin Yi a 0, it was still more telling. If there was nothing between the two of them, why did Chu Mengyao choose to pick on Lin Yi? Looking at Kang Xiaobo's inquiring gaze, Lin Yi smiled bitterly and spread his hands, saying that he was innocent. However, Kang Xiaobo was puzzled. Lin Yi's expression showed that he was innocent. Moreover, although Kang Xiaobo had previously felt that there was an affair between Lin Yi and Chu Mengyao, now that he thought about it carefully, there was no possibility. Lin Yi had just transferred here a few days ago and hadn't even said a word to Chu Mengyao. How could there be something between the two of them? Was it just a coincidence? Kang Xiaobo shook his head and turned away. Although Lin Yi scored 0 points, which shocked the whole class, it was only a momentary shock. Next, everyone focused their attention on their own grades. Chapter 92. It seems really excessive. Looking at Lin Yi, who sat in the passenger seat with a nonchalant expression, Chu Mengyao felt a little strange. She had initially assumed that Lin Yi would inevitably give her a lecture after school. After all, she had caused Lin Yi to embarrass himself in front of the entire class. Earlier, Chu Mengyao, irritated with Chen Yushu, had taken her anger out on Lin Yi's test paper. At the time, it seemed natural, but when Chen Yushu announced the results, Chu Mengyao regretted it. She felt she had gone too far and was prepared for Lin Yi's lecture on the way home from school. Chu Mengyao had also prepared for the worst, an apology at worst. However, since Lin Yi got in the car, he hadn't mentioned his grades, not even a single word. He sat there quietly, as usual. Lin Yi remained silent, and Chu Mengyao grew restless. Why wasn't he reacting? Was he really angry? The thought of this made Chu Mengyao feel resentful. I'm ready to apologize to you, and you're still acting so arrogantly. Hey! How can a grown man be so stingy? Chu Mengyao finally couldn't help but snorted. Lin Yi was thinking about when to send the Chinese medicine in his hand to Yang Huaijin, and was suddenly startled by Chu Mengyao's words. He turned around inexplicably. Are you talking to me? Nonsense. Is there anyone else in this car besides you? Chu Mengyao was a little unhappy. Lin Yi looked at Uncle Fu, who was driving next to him with a sweat, and thought to himself, Uncle Fu, you are so miserable. You have been eunuched by the eldest lady for the second time. Cough cough. Uncle Fu was so scared by Lin Yi's look that he coughed twice helplessly. Oh, Chu Mengyao also realized that she was too arbitrary and let Uncle Fu into the palace again. She hurriedly explained, Uncle Fu is a driver, he doesn't count, I'm talking about you, drivers don't count as men? Lin Yi was even more sweaty. What kind of theory is this? But seeing that Uncle Fu didn't say anything, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't say anything either. How am I being petty, today? I graded your paper. Are you angry? Chu Mengyao saw that Lin Yi was asking this question even though she knew the answer, and glared at him angrily. Grading? What's the anger? Lin Yi was a little confused. That paper was given by Chen Yushu. Chen Yushu was standing nearby, and as a bystander, she could see clearly that Lin Yi really didn't seem to understand what Chu Mengyao was talking about. So she suppressed a smile and explained, Brother Arrow, Yao Iao means that she gave you a 0. Do you hold a grudge against her? Oh, Lin Yi finally understood what Chu Mengyao was talking about. That paper? It's okay. I threw it away a long time ago. Seeing Lin Yi's nonchalant look, Chu Mengyao was immediately furious. She had apologized to him with good intentions, but what kind of attitude was this? If she had known he didn't care like this, she would have ignored him. Humph. Even if it was a 0, at least it had her signature on it. The other boys in the class couldn't get it back, but he threw it away. For a moment, the atmosphere in the car was a little cold. Lin Yi usually doesn't talk much, which is nothing, but usually when Chu Mengyao gets in the car, she always chatters endlessly with Chen Yushu, but today she has a sullen face and looks unhappy. Sister Yao Iao, okay, I'm wrong today, okay, don't be angry. Seeing that the atmosphere between Chu Mengyao and Lin Yi was a little weird, Chen Yushu, the culprit, carefully apologized to Chu Mengyao, pulling her arm and shaking it. I'll deal with you tonight. Chu Mengyao was naturally not angry after being treated like this by Chen Yushu, but she still glared at her, thinking, you just want to make trouble in the world. In fact, Lin Yi didn't take the previous incident seriously at all. He came to school with the idea of playing around and enjoying high school life. All this was part of the mission. How could Lin Yi take it so seriously? Who knows, one day I will run to the primeval forest again, and everything here will be just an episode in my memory, becoming an eternal memory. After dinner, Chu Mengyao might be a little embarrassed because of what happened at school during the day, so she pulled Chen Yushu upstairs. Lin Yi was not polite either, and sat in the restaurant and ate heartily. But the mighty general, seeing Lin Yi gnawing on the ribs, was a little greedy, and wandered around the restaurant with his tail up and tongue licking. Perhaps in his instinctive consciousness, Lin Yi was a very dangerous person, so the mighty general did not dare to approach casually, but he was greedy for the meat ribs in Lin Yi's hand. In the past, when Lin Yi was not around, the ribs left by Chu Mengyao and Chen Yushu would all go into the stomach of the mighty general. But since Lin Yi came, he can only eat his high-end dog food. Although the dog food is high-end and expensive, how can it be as delicious as the delicious meat bones? But it is not stupid. The intelligence of a dog like Rottweiler is not low, and dogs are much more sensitive to the outside world than humans. This is also an important reason why many places train a large number of police dogs and military dogs. Dogs can easily detect the breath that humans cannot feel. So General Weiwu was quite afraid of the murderous aura that Lin Yi released instantly on the day he first arrived. In his eyes, Lin Yi was an absolutely dangerous guy. Therefore, no matter how greedy he was, General Weiwu did not dare to rush up to rob him. People are afraid of death, and dogs are also afraid of death. Lin Yi looked at General Weiwu circling at the door of the restaurant, and probably guessed what he meant. He threw a few bones that he had not chewed very well to General Weiwu. General Weiwu was really in tears. When did he become treated like this, and could only eat the leftovers of others? It's really humiliating. But it's better to have it than not, right? Besides, Lin Yi was staring at him eagerly. If he didn't eat, he might get a beating. Thinking of this, General Mighty happily ate a bone Lin Yi had thrown him, savoring the long-lost aroma of meat. General Mighty felt less aggrieved, just being able to eat was good enough. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yushu went upstairs and took out their test papers from the day, preparing to review their mistakes to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. Earlier at school, feeling a sense of regret, she hadn't carefully read the paper Lin Yi had marked for her before putting it back in her school bag. Only after returning home did she carefully examine the marks Lin Yi had left. Looking at the beautiful handwriting, she sorted out all her mistakes and wrote them on the back of the paper, carefully annotating the solutions. Chu Mengyao's heart ached, and she regretted her actions even more. She had sloppily corrected Lin Yi's paper and given him a 0. While Lin Yi had meticulously sorted out her mistakes and even marked them with detailed instructions. It seemed like a real overreaction. Chen Yushu was looking at her test paper when she suddenly noticed something strange about Chu Mengyao beside her. She looked up and saw Chu Mengyao with a wronged look on her face and tears in her eyes. Chapter 93 Strange Dream. Sister Yao, what's wrong with you? Chen Yushu was startled. Seeing Chu Mengyao, who looked like she was about to cry, she wondered what was wrong. Nothing, Chu Mengyao sighed softly. Zia Oshu, do you think I went too far today? No, Chen Yushu sensed something in Chu Mengyao's words. Was she still dwelling on what happened today? Sister Yao didn't seem so sentimental. Maybe he doesn't care. Chu Mengyao shook her head. Sister Yao, your test paper. Chen Yushu suddenly noticed Chu Mengyao's paper was densely covered with problem-solving instructions. She was surprised. Did Brother Arrow write this for you? He's pretty nice to you. When grading someone's paper, there was no obligation to help them write out the solutions to their mistakes. After all, everyone followed a teacher's instructions and would go back and revise them themselves. But Lin Yi had written out the detailed steps for Chu Mengyao, surprising Chen Yushu and understanding her reasoning. Chu Mengyao said nothing, focusing on the questions she'd gotten wrong. Seeing Chu Mengyao studying diligently, Chen Yushu also turned her attention to her own paper. She hadn't expected Lin Yi's solution steps to be even more detailed than the teacher's. Chu Mengyao was surprised. Lin Yi seemed afraid she wouldn't understand, detailing every step with explanations. This astonished her, and she began to doubt Lin Yi's identity. Where had his father found this man? When she first saw him, she'd thought he was a migrant worker, but now it seemed impossible for a migrant worker to solve high school math problems. When Chu Mengyao got to the last supplementary question, she was initially surprised. Hadn't she solved it herself? When Teacher Liu was explaining it, she felt a little proud. She'd gotten it right while so many other students in the class hadn't, and it had given her a small boost of pride. But when she finished reading Lin Yi's solution, she was stunned. This was a method she had never seen before, yet it was much simpler than her own. Chu Mengyao felt an inexplicable surge of emotion. She knew Lin Yi was truly doing this for her own good, not just to be perfunctory, otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered to write out this solution. Zia Oshu, look at the solution to this problem. Chu Mengyao sighed and handed her paper to Chen Yushu. Oh, Chen Yushu initially thought Chu Mengyao had a problem and wanted her help, but when she saw the problem she was pointing to in Lin Yi's solution, her mouth dropped open. No way. Wrigley brother is so formidable? Not only is he a great fighter, he's also a great student. Sister Yao, you've landed a great prize. A great prize. Chu Mengyao looked at Chen Yushu, puzzled. Where can you find a guy like that? You have to act first, or someone else will get there first, Chen Yushu said. Chu Mengyao pursed her lips, then said with some disdain, him? Who would like him? Here Chen Yushu smiled slyly and said, it's a lot. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. After Lin Yi finished eating, he threw the remaining 2 uneaten ribs to the mighty general. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to save them for making noodles tomorrow morning, but thinking that tomorrow was the weekend, Uncle Fu said that he would take care of all 3 meals, and Chu Mengyao and Chen Yushu would definitely sleep in. There was no need for him to get up early to make breakfast. After returning to his room, Lin Yi fell on the bed. There were a lot of things to do today, and he was very nervous in the afternoon making medicine for Yang Huaijin. Lin Yi felt really tired. Lying in bed, he didn't want to get up. It shouldn't be a big deal to miss a day of practice, right? Lin Yi hesitated. Since he came out of that strange cave, he hasn't slept since then. He spent every night practicing. But fortunately, after practicing, he is full of energy. For a few hours, he feels as energetic as if he had slept for 10 hours. At home, no matter how tired he was, with old man Lin watching over him, Lin Yi dared not slack off. But when on a mission, Lin Yi had to remain vigilant, and dared not even sleep. He had never been in a situation like this before. Without old man's supervision and no danger around, Lin Yi thought about slacking off. As expected, when people are comfortable, they become lazy. Lin Yi sighed. He was truly exhausted today, And he didn't feel like practicing. He just wanted a peaceful sleep. Fatally, Lin Yi seemed to have entered a void, a pitch-black darkness. Lin Yi immediately became alert. What was this place? Was he dreaming? Suddenly, as Lin Yi thought, the void suddenly became brighter, as bright as daylight. A figure gradually solidified before him. Who are you? Lin Yi asked subconsciously. Dreams hadn't happened in years, and Lin Yi had gradually forgotten the feeling of dreams. But today, was he dreaming? My last name is Jiao. The figure slowly solidified into the form of an old man, with a somewhat sage-like demeanor. He spoke calmly before Lin Yi. What? Lin Yi stared at the old man in astonishment, wondering, how could this man be even more vulgar than me? He started with that word. Could it be that I've watched too many porn movies and my mind has been corrupted? Even my dreams are filled with such nonsense. The old man faltered. My last name is Jiao, and I'm Jiao Yezi. What? Jiao Yezi. Lin Yi was even more stunned. What kind of dream was this? Was it a joke? Jiao Yezi was speechless. No one had called him that nickname in years, but he didn't expect this kid to come up with it. He was a little annoyed. It's Jiao Yezi, not Jiao Yezi. You little brat, don't be rude to me. Sorry, old Jiao, I misheard you. Lin Yi felt a little embarrassed, but he thought, it's just a character from a dream. There's no need to take it too seriously, right? Do you think you're dreaming? Jiao Yezi sneered, looking at him as if he had seen through Lin Yi's thoughts. Huh? Isn't it? Lin Yi was stunned, looking at Jiao Yezi with some surprise. Then pinch yourself and see if it hurts. Jiao Yezi looked at Lin Yi with a mocking expression. I didn't expect that my great-grandmaster sealed a trace of my illusion in this jade pendant, waiting for the arrival of my destined person, but I didn't expect that you, a fool, would be the one waiting for me. Chapter 94. Go to bed early and be good. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed after hearing what Jiao Yezi said. Since Jiao Yezi said so, then he definitely wasn't dreaming. Besides, a dreamer wouldn't bother to study whether or not he was dreaming. So where am I now? Lin Yi ruled out the possibility of dreaming, but he was still a little confused. Where was he now? The previous moment, he was lying on the bed in Chu Mengyao's villa, but the next moment, he was in this inexplicable place. This is the four-dimensional space of the jade pendant. Jiao Yezi couldn't help but snort coldly when he said this. I really can't believe there is someone as stupid as you in the world. I've been waiting in the jade pendant for so many years, and you finally came in. What? I'm in the jade pendant. Although Lin Yi is not a timid person, after hearing what Jiao Yezi said, an expression of horror appeared on his face. Yes, Jiao Yezi frowned. Is this the destined person? This destined person is a bit too bad. Then how did I get in? Lin Yi suddenly thought of a very important question. Jiao Yezi had said before that he had been waiting for him in the jade pendant for years, and he had just entered. You just fell asleep and came in naturally, Jiao Yezi said calmly. Huh? Lin Yi was stunned. That's simple. How difficult do you think it is? Jiao Yezi rolled his eyes. But I have nothing to say to you. In all these years, you haven't even slept. You're just too awesome. To be honest, you're just too awesome. Lin Yi was speechless. When he obtained the jade pendant, he also obtained a secret manual for the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. Since then, he has practiced according to the manual, replacing sleep with practice. Years have passed in a flash. I have been practicing the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. Lin Yi scratched his head sheepishly. Of course I know you're practicing the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. I could see it in the jade pendant. Jiao Yezi snorted coldly and said, but I really admire you. After so many years of useless practice, you've still managed to persevere. You're even more amazing than Yugong. Well, you can't say it's useless, can you? I've already reached the late stage of the first level. Lin Yi gave a wry smile. Huh? This time it was Jiao Yezi's turn to be puzzled. He suddenly stretched out a hand and placed it on Lin Yi's arm. Lin Yi tried to dodge, but Jiao Yezi's speed was much faster than he had imagined, practically teleporting. However, what puzzled Lin Yi was that although Jiao Yezi seemed to touch him, he felt nothing at all, as if a phantom figure had touched him. In such a harsh environment outside, you actually managed to break through and reach the late stage of the first level? You're quite a talent. Jiao Yezi was a little surprised. How? Hearing Jiao Yezi's praise, Lin Yi finally smiled. This Jiao Yezi had been either calling him a fool or sneeringly calling him awesome since they'd met, but this time, he'd finally praised him. What a pity. Jiao Yezi lamented, shaking his head. You could have reached this level in a few months, but it took you nearly 10. Your talent was wasted, squandering your prime years. Lin Yi hadn't expected Jiao Yezi's final words to be disparaging, and was left speechless. However, Jiao Yezi's words left Lin Yi somewhat disappointed. Was he destined to never break through? He couldn't help but feel a little gloomy. You mean I can't break through the first level and advance to the second, break through the first level? Is that your goal? Jiao Yezi was stunned. He hadn't expected this guy to be so demanding. Is it possible to break through further? Lin Yi was also taken aback. If you had come in here 10 years ago, without those big words, conservatively speaking, you would have broken through to the third level by now, Jiao Yezi said with regret. But at your age now, although breaking through to the third level is not a difficult task, the older you get, the greater the obstacles will be. Lin Yi felt like crying. Thinking back to when he was really too hardworking, he ended up being misled by his hard work. Originally, after getting the Xuanyuan dragon slaying art, he started to practice hard, but what a result, it led to the current situation. If I had known earlier, I might as well have just had a good sleep. Hey, but don't be discouraged. Although you can't become a great figure like your uncle who roams the outer space, it's awesome that you broke through the third level. Jiao Yezi saw that Lin Yi was disappointed, so he comforted him. Maybe if there is another genetic mutation, you will become super awesome all of a sudden. After listening to Jiao Yezi's words, Lin Yi actually thought it through a bit. If it was as Jiao Yezi said, it would not be bad. Thinking that the Xuanyuan dragon slaying art had already brought him endless benefits just by practicing the late first level, wouldn't breaking through to the third level be even more powerful? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt that he didn't need to be so greedy. You mean, I have a chance to break through to the first level right now? Lin Yi thought more clearly and was naturally surprised. Of course, Jiao Yezi nodded. The energy contained in this space is several times, even dozens of times, greater than that outside. Your cultivation speed here will also be several times faster than outside. Especially when it comes to the breakthrough point, because the outside environment is harsh and the energy is scarce, it can't provide the massive energy required for the instantaneous breakthrough. This is also a major reason why you repeatedly fail to break through. This was the first time Lin Yi had heard about energy. Originally, he had indeed absorbed a substance similar to Zhenki from nature during his cultivation, but he had no idea what it was. Perhaps it was called Zhenki in some martial arts novels, but Jiao Yezi was referring to energy. However, I advise you to stop the arguing and focus on your cultivation. The mechanism in that stone door was personally set up by my great-grandmaster. Not to mention that I'm just an illusion now. Even if I were here, I couldn't force it open. Jiao Yezi glanced at Lin Yi and said calmly, if you don't want to miss this 5-year deadline, then stop talking nonsense. Lin Yi was shocked. Yes, the 5-year deadline was indeed approaching, but he had unexpectedly discovered a shocking secret about the jade pendant. He had originally thought the jade pendant was just a mysterious object that could predict good and bad luck, but he had never expected it to be a cultivation space. Moreover, there was a person named Jiao Yezi waiting for him inside. From Jiao Yezi's previous words, Lin Yi had roughly understood. The Xuanyuan dragon slaying art and the jade pendant were left by one of Jiao Yezi's great-grandmasters. Lin Yi had no idea what kind of person this great-grandmaster was. The only thing he knew was that he had picked up a great bargain. Chapter 95, Breakthrough already? Wait, one last question, Lin Yi asked, gritted his teeth as he saw Jiao Yezi's impatient expression. Tell me, Jiao Yezi said indifferently. Who are you, exactly? And who is your great-uncle master? Lin Yi couldn't help but be curious. Of course I'm Jiao Yezi. I've already told you, Jiao Yezi said calmly, my great-uncle master is naturally an extremely powerful person, but you don't need to know. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to think you can become his disciple just because you stumbled upon some cultivation manual and jade pendant he left behind. That's impossible. Lin Yi was stunned by Jiao Yezi's expression, which said, don't be so wishful thinking. Jiao Yezi had been indifferent just now, but he wasn't like this now. Had he offended him? However, after a moment's hesitation, Lin Yi understood why Jiao Yezi was so upset. Since the person who had left the secret manual was his great-uncle, if he were to become Jiao Yezi's disciple, he would naturally become Jiao Yezi's elder, which would surely displease him. Thinking of this, Lin Yi smiled and said, of course not. Even if I'm becoming a disciple, it's you, Elder Jiao? Well, you're sensible. Jiao Yezi forced a smile upon hearing Lin Yi's words. Since you're so sincere, I'll do the hard work and observe you for a while. How? Lin Yi smiled. He didn't want to expose Jiao Yezi's subtle thoughts, so he said nothing more. He sat cross-legged on the floor of the space and entered a state of cultivation. Since Jiao Yezi hadn't mentioned anything about his great-uncle, there was no need to inquire. He would tell him what he needed to, and asking about what he shouldn't would be pointless. A huge amount of energy suddenly surged into Lin Yi's body from all directions, and this sudden phenomenon startled Lin Yi. Although energy absorption in the mountain forests, where this Henki was densest, was faster than in the city, it was definitely not this fast. It was simply unstoppable and endless. For a moment, Lin Yi felt like he was about to explode, and immediately slowed down his cultivation. Huh? Lin Yi looked at Jiao Yezi, who was standing not far away, with a playful look on his face, feeling somewhat helpless. This old man was definitely deliberately teasing him. He didn't even give him a heads up before practicing. Did he really want to finish him off? Even though Lin Yi slowed down his cultivation, the energy from all around him continued to pour into his body endlessly, though at a slower pace. Before long, Lin Yi felt that the energy in his body had reached its limit. However, the energy elements from all around him continued to pour into his body at the same rate as before. Cold sweat broke out on Lin Yi's forehead. What was going on? This had never happened before? Although Lin Yi was a little horrified, he still couldn't stop the energy from pouring into his body. At this moment, Lin Yi felt like his body was a magnet, constantly absorbing the energy pouring in from all around him. Jiao Yezi, Lin Yi felt like he was about to explode, and he had no choice but to call out to Jiao Yezi for help. However, Jiao Yezi continued to look at Lin Yi with a playful expression, showing no intention of attacking him. Boom! Lin Yi felt his body could no longer withstand the overwhelming energy, and he felt as if he had exploded. His clothes instantly turned into charred fragments, flying in all directions. Whoosh! Just when Lin Yi thought he was finished, he was shocked to find that he was still alive. He stood before Jiao Yezi, naked, feeling an indescribable sense of relief. A breakthrough? Lin Yi was speechless. He had never experienced a breakthrough before, nor had he ever felt the surge of energy that comes with breaking through the critical point. Lin Yi was speechless. He had thought he was going to explode, but in fact, he had. No wonder Jiao Yezi had such a playful expression on his face. It seemed he had anticipated this outcome. Sure enough, Jiao Yezi spoke. Breakthrough? How is it going? Feeling good, right? It does feel good, but I didn't expect the energy here to be so powerful. I broke through so quickly. It really scared me, Lin Yi said with a wry smile. You were already at the critical point of breaking through, but the environment outside was harsh, and there wasn't enough energy for you to break through all at once, Jiao Yezi said with a chuckle. The energy here is abundant. Once you enter the state of cultivation, you'll naturally break through instantly. Jiao Yezi's explanation finally made Lin Yi realize that he had already reached the late stage of the first level of cultivation, but simply didn't have the necessary conditions for a breakthrough. The abundant energy here was why he broke through so quickly. As for the sudden surge of energy into his body, it was probably only at the moment of a breakthrough, not during normal cultivation. Thank you, Mr. Jiao, Lin Yi bowed heartily to Jiao Yezi. Regardless, Lin Yi was deeply grateful for Jiao Yezi's help. Seeing Lin Yi's serious expression, Jiao Yezi was a little surprised. After a while, he said, Okay, kid, don't be so serious. You are my disciple. From now on, you can just call me Jiao Lao or Master Jiao. Forget about Mr. Jiao, then I will call you Jiao Lao, Lin Yi nodded. Jiao Lao, I wonder if I can continue to practice the second level of Xuanyuan dragon slaying art now. The second level? Do you have it? Jiao Yezi asked after being stunned. Ah. You don't have it? Lin Yi was also stunned and looked at Jiao Yezi in surprise. If you didn't enter the stone gate and take out the second level, how could I have gone there? Jiao Yezi was speechless. Isn't this the secret manual of cultivation left by your great-uncle? Haven't you practiced it? Lin Yi was even more speechless. Does my great-grandmaster's teachings mean I have to practice them? Jiao Yezi rolled his eyes. My training is different from this. You can only practice this, I can't, huh? Is that so? Lin Yi scratched his head awkwardly, feeling limited by his normal thinking. Jiao Yezi was right. He didn't have to practice what his great-grandmaster's teachings left behind. If I knew how, why would I tell you to hurry and enter the stone gate? Jiao Yazi said helplessly. Don't expect me to help you. I'm just an illusion. My function is similar to that of a guide. I'm just explaining the purpose of this training space and keeping you company when you're free. For everything else, you're on your own. Lin Yi was speechless after hearing Jiao Yazi's blunt words. It seemed he couldn't afford to slack off any longer. He had already broken through the first level, and there was still some time before the 5-year deadline. What was he supposed to do in the meantime? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96. Go shopping with us. Master Jiao, besides being a training space, does this jade pendant have any other uses? Lin Yi thought of the jade pendant's ability to predict good and bad luck. He figured Jiao Yazi, being one of the jade pendants, should know something about it. Yes, Jiao Yazi nodded affirmatively. What other functions? Lin Yi was delighted, thinking Jiao Yazi knew, and quickly asked. But I don't know the specific functions. Jiao Yazi shook his head. This is something my great-grandmaster personally modified. I've never worn it, so how would I know? Once you can open the stone door at the back, there should be detailed instructions inside, right? Should? Lin Yi asked uncertainly. I haven't been inside the stone door, so how would I know? Jiao Yazi said, as if to say, don't ask me, I don't know either. Alright, Lin Yi felt a little disappointed, but only for a moment. He was already quite happy to have achieved what he had today. He just hoped this wasn't a dream. When Lin Yi woke up, it was already bright daylight, around 8 or 9 in the morning. He had slept for a long time. Lin Yi couldn't help but stretch and sit up in bed. Wait, Lin Yi suddenly remembered his dream from last night. The dream of Jiao Yazi and the cultivation space. Lin Yi subconsciously touched himself. In the dream, his clothes had exploded into shreds when he broke through the first level of the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. But when Lin Yi touched his pajamas, still intact, his heart sank. Could it have been just a dream? The thought filled Lin Yi with disappointment. He had thought that after finally achieving a breakthrough, he would be able to meet the 5-year deadline and successfully open the stone gate. But it was all just a dream? Boy, you're in the jade pendant. Your spirit has only entered the virtual cultivation space. Your clothes on the outside won't be torn. Suddenly, a voice echoed in Lin Yi's mind, startling him. But then, Lin Yi was overjoyed. Jiao Yazi, it was Jiao Yazi's voice. Old Jiao, is that you? Lin Yi asked subconsciously. Of course it's me, Jiao Yazi said. When you communicate with me, just use your thoughts, no need to speak, is that okay? Old Jiao, can you hear me? Lin Yi said to Jiao Yazi in his mind. Yes, Jiao Yazi replied simply. Old Jiao, since you can communicate with me through your thoughts, why didn't you remind me to enter the cultivation space in the jade pendant earlier? Lin Yi asked, somewhat curiously. Before you entered the jade pendant's cultivation space, I couldn't establish a mental connection with you. Old Jiao snorted and said, only after you entered the cultivation space did your thoughts establish a connection with it. Did you still think the jade pendant was still on you, isn't it? Lin Yi was startled and subconsciously reached for the jade pendant on his chest, but he grabbed nothing. The jade pendant that had been hanging on his chest had now disappeared. Where's the jade pendant, Elder Jiao? Hearing Lin Yi's nervous voice, Elder Jiao couldn't help but feel a little proud. The jade pendant has established a connection with you and is now integrated into your body. It has completed the process of recognizing its master, so it won't be easily stolen. Therefore, it is usually hidden within your body, but you can also summon it with your mind. Oh, Lin Yi was stunned. He hadn't expected the jade pendant to have this ability to recognize its master. Following Elder Jiao's instructions, Lin Yi summoned the jade pendant with his mind, causing it to reappear on his chest. Soon, Lin Yi felt the jade pendant he had worn for nearly 10 years on his chest. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief, and the jade pendant returned to his body. This was a good thing. He no longer had to worry about losing it. Previously, after Lin Yi obtained the jade pendant, although he kept it a low-key item and it looked unremarkable, he still worried about it being stolen. This time, Lin Yi could finally put that worry to rest. Thinking that everything last night wasn't a dream, Lin Yi felt incredibly happy. He was especially delighted to have successfully broken through the first level of the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. He got up, quickly washed up, and left the room. He saw Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu already awake, leaning on the sofa watching cartoons on TV. Seeing Lin Yi emerge, Chu Mengyao simply glanced at him. Recalling yesterday's events, she wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say, so she simply turned her attention to the cartoons. Chen Yashu, on the other hand, saw Lin Yi emerge, her eyes flickered, and she waved at him. "Brother Arrow, how about going shopping with Yao and me later?" "Me?" Lin Yi was startled, then pointed at himself. "Yes, carry our bags," Chen Yashu nodded. "Is it okay if I don't go?" Lin Yi smiled wryly. "Carrying bags? That job didn't seem that promising." "Ahem. Toilet paper." Chen Yashu feigned a cough twice and said to Lin Yi slyly. Lin Yi was furious, thinking, this girl is making a living out of this? Bringing it up every day? When will it ever stop? "Xiaoshu, why are you coughing? Are you catching a cold?" Chu Mengyao heard Chen Yashu coughing and asking for toilet paper again, and hurriedly handed Chen Yashu the tissue box on the coffee table. "Huh?" Chen Yashu was startled, knowing that Chu Mengyao had misunderstood. She couldn't help but stick out her tongue, pulled out a tissue, and feigned a cough twice more. Lin Yi was amused by this, shook his head, and went back to his room to change. Anyway, until Chu Pengzhan told him the mission, the only thing he could do was to stay with Chu Mengyao. Since she was out shopping, he naturally had to follow her. When Lin Yi changed and came out, Uncle Fu had just arrived with breakfast. It was century egg and lean meat porridge cooked by the hotel's master chef, along with a few exquisite pickled vegetables. Lin Yi helped Uncle Fu put breakfast on the table, and Uncle Fu left with a lunchbox from last night. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu turned off the TV and came to the restaurant to eat. Seeing Lin Yi turning around to leave, Chu Mengyao pursed her lips and wanted to call Lin Yi to eat together, but she was too reserved to speak. "Brotherly, let's eat together? We have to go shopping after we finish eating, so we don't have time to wait for you to eat by yourself," Chen Yashu called Lin Yi before Chu Mengyao could speak. "Hey." Chu Mengyao was a little annoyed. Why was Xiaoshu the first to get there? Originally, because of what happened yesterday, she wanted to take the initiative to show her goodwill, but in the end, before she could open her mouth, forget it. This is fine. She is Lin Yi's employer and pays him a salary. Why should she show her goodwill to him? He should show his goodwill to her. Thinking of this, Chu Mengyao felt a little relieved. Chapter 97 Unconscious Habit. Okay, Lin Yi had just broken through the first level of the Xuanyuan dragon slang art. Although he didn't have the formula for the second level to practice, the weight that had weighed on his heart for years had finally been lifted, and Lin Yi was in a good mood. Chen Yashu fetched 3 bowls from the sterilizer, and Lin Yi swiftly poured them out. He glanced at the table and finally sat down next to Chen Yashu. Although Chen Yashu was a bit eccentric, Lin Yi found her easier to get along with than Miss Chu. He also shared a secret with her, though it was a fluke and unfounded accusation, but it had strengthened their relationship. Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu were very quiet as they drank their porridge, but Lin Yi didn't care. Although he had systematically studied dining etiquette, Lin Yi really didn't bother to follow it at home. Back when he was fighting in the African battlefields, time was precious. How could he have the time for a polite meal? Even the female members ate their food in quick bites, otherwise they might be about to be met with an enemy rocket launcher. Eating so fast, aren't you afraid of choking? Chu Mengyao curled her lips in displeasure as she watched Lin Yi finish 2 bowls of porridge and then head to his room. She and Chen Yashu hadn't finished their bowls of porridge yet, and now they'd only had about half of it. Boys, they eat fast. Chen Yashu didn't mind. My brother eats so fast when he's home. Chu Mengyao nodded. She knew the army had rules. How could you eat so slowly? What if the enemy came on the battlefield? But Lin Yi had never been a soldier, so why was he eating so fast? Lin Yi didn't have time to listen to 2 girls criticize his eating speed. He was thinking about when he would deliver the Chinese medicine he'd brewed for Yang Huaijin. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to deliver it today, but since Chen Yashu asked him to accompany them shopping, he obviously couldn't go. Never mind, let's talk about it later. Yang Huaijin won't die anytime soon anyway, and with the pain relief I prescribed him last time, he won't be in too much pain. Back in his room, Lin Yi took out the bank card Uncle Fu had given him. He was going to buy a notebook. This would make research much easier. Many medical books could be downloaded online, so Lin Yi wouldn't have to go to the bookstore to look them up. Before leaving, Lin Yi changed the dressing on his leg wound himself, applying a layer of the healing medicine he'd ground himself yesterday. He wouldn't have to go to the hospital for another dressing change today. Yesterday, that tough nurse had really overwhelmed Lin Yi. Besides, his healing medicine was much more effective than the ordinary plasters at the hospital. After looking around and finding nothing else to take, Lin Yi left the room to find Chu Mengyao and Chen Yashu already dressed. They were wearing the same dress, even their hairstyles were similar, and they carried the same bag. Walking together, they looked like sisters. The two of them were obviously dressed brighter than usual at school. Perhaps it was because there were too many flies in the school, so they were deliberately keeping a low profile? But it was the weekend, and they were out shopping, so there was not much talk. Huh? You're wearing this? Chen Yashu pointed at Lin Yi's school uniform and opened her mouth in surprise. She had seen Lin Yi go back to his room after eating and thought he was going to change his clothes. But he came out wearing his usual school uniform. Is there anything wrong with it? Lin Yi thought the school uniform was good and the quality was impeccable. It was worthy of being the best high school in the city, and even many high-end brands couldn't compare. Do you think your clothes match the two of us? Chen Yashu looked at Lin Yi with a matter-of-fact look and covered her mouth with her hands and laughed. However, Chu Mengyao thought of something else. Lin Yi, besides your school uniform, didn't Uncle Fu give you any other clothes? No, Lin Yi shook his head. And the clothes I wore when I arrived? Chu Mengyao suddenly remembered Lin Yi's appearance at that time, a yellowed white vest and tattered khaki pants. The thought made her faint. Forget it, you should just wear this. Buy him two more decent ones later. Even if you're my follower, you should look presentable. Chu Mengyao agreed and would buy him 2 sets of clothes with her own money. Although this one looked a little strange, it was much better than his own. Okay, I'll follow you from a distance. No one will know we're together. Lin Yi nodded understandingly. Chu Mengyao's face froze slightly. Who told you to follow from a distance? Going out together means going out together. If you follow from a distance, what's the point? However, Chu Mengyao's reserved personality prevented her from saying this. For some reason, ever since Lin Yi got involved in her life, everything related to him has become a mess, making Chu Mengyao very upset. After leaving the villa, Lin Yi did not see Uncle Fu's Bentley. When he was wondering, he saw Chu Mengyao picked up a remote control and opened the garage door next to the villa. There was an Audi S5 sports car parked in the garage. It looked similar to the A5, but it was very low-key. Lin Yi did not expect that Chu Mengyao actually had a car. Usually, Uncle Fu would pick her up and drop her off. Lin Yi really did not realize that Chu Mengyao could drive. You drive? Chu Mengyao threw a bunch of keys in Lin Yi's hand. Me? I don't even have a license. Lin Yi had always driven without one before, but that was only when he was on a mission or killing someone. Driving without a license was a minor matter. Chu Mengyao frowned at Lin Yi's words. Let Uncle Fu get you one. Otherwise, it'll be so inconvenient for you to go shopping with us in the future. Uncle Fu is already getting one, but he hasn't brought it back yet. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Chu Mengyao had unknowingly accepted the fact that he was by her side, no longer vehemently trying to get him to leave like she had a few days ago. The mention of going out shopping this time proved that Chu Mengyao's resistance was not as strong. Then you sit in the back, I'll drive, Chu Mengyao said to Lin Yi, pointing to the back seat. The S5 was a single-row sports car, and the back seats had to be accessed from the front, which was a bit inconvenient. But with Lin Yi's agility, it was no big deal. He gently pushed the front seat, and Lin Yi jumped in. Chu Mengyao said nothing more and took the driver's seat, with Chen Yashu sitting beside her. It can be seen that the two are not the kind of rich second generation who like to race cars. Instead, they obey traffic rules. After fastening their seat belts, Chu Mengyao started the car and slowly drove out of the villa area. Chapter 98. Can it drift? What's going on up there? Chu Mengyao looked up at the long line of cars ahead, straining to see what was happening. Brother Arrow, get out and see what's going on up there, Chen Yashu casually ordered Lin Yi. Well, it's better if you do it. Otherwise, you have to get out first if I do, Lin Yi said with a wry smile. Chen Yashu then remembered that there was no door next to the back seat of Lin Yi's car, so she had to get out herself. Although there were many onlookers in front, Many people naturally gave way to a beautiful girl like Chen Yushu. Chen Yushu quickly ran back and said to Chu Mengyao, "Sister Yao, there's been a car accident up there. I don't think they'll be able to get through for a while, right? No way? We're so unlucky. Let's find a place to park and take a walk," Chu Mengyao said helplessly after hearing Chen Yushu's words. "There's a public parking space over there," Chen Yushu pointed to a parking lot not far to the left of the road. Zia Oshu, you're a bit of a jerk. Do you think I can park in there?" Chu Mengyao glanced at the empty parking space in the parking lot. In front was a Toyota Coaster, and in the back was a Jinbei van. The two vehicles, one in front and one behind, were already large, squeezing the middle parking space into a very small space. Most people couldn't fit in there at all. Even though Chu Mengyao's Audi S5 was a bit smaller, it wouldn't be difficult to park in there. Otherwise, in this commercial district with limited parking, and on weekends, how could a parking space be so easily available? It would have been taken long ago. What should we do then? Chen Yushu hadn't been driving, so she hadn't given it much thought. Now, taking a closer look at the parking space, she realized it wasn't going to be easy. "So, let's just park on the side of the road," Chu Mengyao said, starting the car and parking it on the side of the road. Lin Yi looked at the large no parking sign next to the car and gave Chu Mengyao a look of surprise. "Anyway, there's no penalty for getting a ticket. Uncle Fu will take care of it." Chu Mengyao saw what Lin Yi was thinking and shrugged nonchalantly. Lin Yi sighed inwardly. The eldest daughter is indeed an eldest daughter. He thought she was different from other rich second generations, but in fact, they have one thing in common, which is that they don't treat money as money. "Let me do it." Lin Yi took the car keys from Chu Mengyao's hand speechlessly and sat in the driving seat. "Hey, what are you doing? Don't you have a driver's license?" Chu Mengyao was caught off guard and Lin Yi snatched the keys and got into the car. "Illegal parking will be towed away." Lin Yi pointed to the small words under the no parking sign. "Didn't you see what it says below? I'm afraid if you park here, we won't be able to get back." After saying that, Lin Yi didn't wait for Chu Mengyao to speak. He quickly started the car, stepped on the accelerator, and the car drove quickly to the public parking lot on the left side of the road. As the car was about to drive into the parking space, Lin Yi suddenly swerved the steering wheel, applied the brakes, and pulled the parking brake. The car did a beautiful drift and parked neatly in the space. Lin Yi had seen a video online about grabbing a parking space and thought it was quite interesting, so he found a broken-down car to practice with twice. Watching the car spinning on the ground, Chu Mengyao thought her car was doomed. Just as she was regretting why she had let Lin Yi take the keys, she was shocked to find that the car had actually parked in the space perfectly. Drifting. "Sister Yao, did you see that? It's really drifting. Brother Arrow can drift," Chen Yushu exclaimed excitedly. "Did he say he didn't have a driver's license?" Liar. Although Chu Mengyao was a little envious of Lin Yi's drifting, she felt a little upset when she thought about the time he said he didn't have a driver's license. What a liar, letting her be his driver for half a day for nothing. With such good skills, he still said he couldn't drive? Chu Mengyao just remembered that Lin Yi didn't seem to say he couldn't drive, just that he didn't have a license. Under the astonished gaze of the parking attendant, Lin Yi got out of the car, gave 5 yuan, locked it, and quickly ran over to Chu Mengyao and Chen Yushu. Done. Lin Yi handed the car keys back to Chu Mengyao. "Hey, you didn't wear out my tires, did you?" Chu Mengyao muttered. Lin Yi smiled. "Brother Arrow, you can drift? When can you teach me?" Chen Yushu, on the other hand, was curious about Lin Yi's parking technique. "Let's talk about it when you have a car," Lin Yi said perfunctorily. "This thing can't be learned simply by being taught." Although he learned it after watching the video twice, it also relies on his own nimble hands and feet coordination and body coordination. One slight miscalculation and the car will be in trouble. "Oh, I have a car. It's in my garage. You can teach me when we get back," Chen Yushu exclaimed excitedly. "Huh?" Lin Yi was stunned. He hadn't expected Chen Yushu to have a car, and was speechless. "Okay, when I'm free," Lin Yi had to say. Chu Mengyao felt a little disgusted by Chen Yushu's servile behavior towards Lin Yi. Why? He was just a shield hired by my dad. Why did he have to teach me something? "Hey, you have to teach me. My dad pays you," Chu Mengyao said. "Okay, Then I'll ask Mr. Chu if he can teach you how to drift." Lin Yi smiled and nodded. "You?" Chu Mengyao was furious. "This guy, why does it seem like he treats Xiaoshu better than me?" Thinking of this, Chu Mengyao felt a little sour. "I'm your eldest daughter, okay? Let's go, Sister Yao. Let's go shopping first." Chen Yushu didn't have the heart to watch Lin Yi and Chu Mengyao quarrel today. They finally got to go shopping today, so of course she had to buy more things. Senior year of high school doesn't leave much time to waste. Even intelligent students like Chu Mengyao and Chen Yushu, with their well-developed study methods, can't afford to be complacent. After all, there are plenty of others with similar intelligence. Chu Mengyao thought so too. It was a rare opportunity to be out, and although she felt a little annoyed, she didn't bother to pay attention to Lin Yi. She took Chen Yushu's hand and walked forward. Lin Yi chuckled and followed the two of them. When they reached the scene of the car accident, he casually glanced over there, but was slightly startled. Frowning, he quickly walked towards the crowd. Lin Yi wasn't one to meddle in other people's business, but today's matter couldn't be ignored. Because, at the scene of the accident, there was an acquaintance. It was Wang Xinian, whom he had met on the train. She was standing helplessly next to a red sports car. Wang Xinian stood anxiously, phone in hand, while two middle-aged men and women pointed at her and kept talking. It seemed Wang Xinian was in trouble. Chapter 99 Car Accident. Seeing Lin Yi pushing his way toward the accident scene, Chu Mengyao suddenly felt a little unhappy. He wasn't a traffic cop, so what did it have to do with him? Brother Arrow has gone there, let's go take a look. Chen Yushu thought that since Lin Yi had gone there must be something interesting going on, so she took Chu Mengyao's hand and wanted to follow Lin Yi. "I'm not going. If you want to go, go by yourself." Chu Mengyao was still angry with Lin Yi, and now seeing him meddling in her business again, she was naturally a little unhappy. "Oh, forget it, let's go buy some clothes." Chen Yushu glanced at Lin Yi reluctantly, and was pulled by Chu Mengyao towards the mall. "Brother Arrow won't be able to find us later, right? Don't we have a car? If he can't find us, just stand by the car and wait for us." Chu Mengyao's anger was actually for a reason. Standing at the accident scene was a beautiful girl. Chu Mengyao naturally saw it, and seeing Lin Yi rushing forward when he saw a beautiful girl, Chu Mengyao's self-esteem was greatly damaged. "Living with me every day, yet always thinking about other women, what kind of person is this? Is my charm index so low? A few days ago, it was Song Lingshan, and today it's this stranger again." Chu Mengyao's face darkened even further when she vaguely noticed Lin Yi talking to that pretty girl. It looked like they'd known each other for a long time. No wonder he was so eager. Chen Yushu naturally had no idea what Chu Mengyao was thinking, but seeing her dark face, she was a little puzzled. Why was she so angry? Could it be that Sister Yao had been having that thing these past 2 days? Otherwise, why would her temper be so strange? Chen Yushu thought evilly. Yeah, it's possible, very likely. I'll have to check it out tonight, haha. Although the accident scene was surrounded by people, it was not difficult for Lin Yi to squeeze in. "Make way, everyone who's not involved, please disperse," Lin Yi shouted loudly as he pushed forward. Those who were squeezed by Lin Yi and wanted to complain subconsciously shut their mouths and voluntarily made way for him. They thought Lin Yi was a traffic police officer or hospital worker handling the scene. Otherwise, who else would say that? Lin Yi squeezed in smoothly and saw the middle-aged woman pointing at Wang Xinian's nose and scolding. "I tell you, if anything happens to my dad, you can go to jail." "Auntie, I said, I didn't hide him." Wang Xinian defended herself a little aggrievedly. "This is a commercial area. I was driving at no more than 30 miles per hour. It was this old man who fell in front of my car. I stepped on the brakes before I touched him." "Huh? He fell in front of your car? If it wasn't you who hid him, who did?" "I tell you, this matter is not over." The middle-aged woman glared at Wang Xinian fiercely. "Why is the ambulance in Songshan City so slow? The director of the health bureau doesn't want to do his job anymore, right? Husband, call their mayor." "All right. Stop arguing." The middle-aged man glared at the woman. "What are you arguing about? Dad just has an old illness. It has nothing to do with this little girl. Don't embarrass him, huh? Look at this little bitch. She is so pretty that she doesn't even care about her own father." Upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, the middle-aged woman stopped scolding Wang Xinian and pointed at him, shouting, "So, now that your family's powerful, Have you forgotten how my father supported you? You're still being mean to me? And you're even helping that little bitch, alright. Who, have you had enough of this? You know what's going on. You forgot to bring my father's medicine, and you're blaming someone else, the middle-aged man snorted, seeming to be extremely dissatisfied with his wife. Well, I've been your Liu family's daughter-in-law for so many years, and you treat me like this. A fierce gleam flashed in Huru's eyes, and she reached out to grab Wang Xinyan's face. You're after this little bitch? I'll tear her face apart and see if it hurts. Snap, a hand clenched Huru's wrist, holding her still. Who's holding me? Huru, startled, turned to look at the person holding her. If she really hit someone, she'll naturally take responsibility. Lin Yi gave the woman named Huru a cold look. From her behavior and previous words, it was clear that she came from a rather unusual background, even acting with a certain recklessness. Wang Xinyan, driving a sports car, must have come from a distinguished family, and yet this woman showed no concern at all, proving she wasn't afraid of causing trouble. The fact that she constantly demanded the director of health be fired and even called the mayor proved this point. Of course, it wasn't ruled out that she was bluffing, trying to extort more money. Who are you? Husband, look at this pretty boy. He dared to meddle in your business and even hit your wife. Liu Xianyi, are you going to do anything? Huru cried again. Alright, little brother, this is none of your business. Stay out of it. Let her go. Assault is a crime. Liu Xianyi frowned at Huru's outburst and addressed Lin Yi. Hit someone? I was just trying to stop her from hitting someone, Lin Yi sneered, but still let go of the woman named Huru. Normally, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. But now, he was on a mission, and he didn't know how long he would be in Songshan City, so he didn't want to cause trouble. Liu Xianyi's face flushed at what Lin Yi said, and he glared at his wife fiercely. He had no way to deal with this wife. When the Liu family was in trouble, they married into the Wu family, where his wife was from, and received assistance from the Wu family, which helped them to save the family business. But this wife, relying on what happened in the past, acted domineeringly in front of him, leaving him with no dignity as a man. Thinking that she was his first wife after all, and had given birth to a pair of beautiful and handsome children, he endured it. But in recent years, as he got older, his sexual life became less effective, and his wife actually suspected that he had a woman outside. At the slightest sign of trouble, she would cry and make a fuss, leaving Liu Xianyi completely helpless. Whenever she got angry with her, she would bring up the past events, even going so far as to go to her father and cry about how she had changed her mind, which made Liu Xianyi furious. Are you okay? Lin Yi let go of Huru and turned to look at Wang Xinyan. The reason why Lin Yi came here was because Wang Xinyan had helped him on the train. Although Lin Yi didn't need any help, he still accepted the favor. It's okay, Wang Xinyan shook her head. She wanted to use her phone to call for help several times, but after thinking about it, she decided not to. This time, she had sneaked out of the house to go shopping. If her parents knew, they would probably scold her to death. Chapter 100 Rescue. Wang Xinyan was a bit surprised to suddenly run into Lin Yi here. But under the current circumstances, that slight surprise quickly faded. Wang Xinyan didn't want Lin Yi to get dragged into her affairs. Although she didn't know the identities of the man and woman, she could tell they were unusual. Wang Xinyan wasn't afraid of them. This wasn't her fault. Even if her father and grandfather eventually found out, it wouldn't matter. At most, they'd scold her, and the matter would still be resolved. But now that Lin Yi was getting involved, if they tried to cause trouble for her, it would be difficult to deal with. Wang Xinyan was about to say something to Lin Yi, but he turned away. Lin Yi nodded. Regardless, he had already gotten into this trouble, so he had to find a way to get Wang Xinyan out of it. While the man named Liu Xianyi seemed to understand the situation somewhat, the woman named Huru was still relying on Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi turned to look at the old man lying on the ground. He showed no signs of injury, and there were no obvious scratches on the front of Wang Xinyan's car. Perhaps just as Wang Xinyan had said, she hadn't bumped into the old man, he had fallen to the ground on his own. The old man, his right hand clutching his chest, lay in a strange position. But after a quick glance, Lin Yi could roughly discern the cause of the old man's illness. It was likely a heart condition or something similar, causing him to collapse, not a car crash. Wang Xinyan's passing car was merely a coincidence. Lin Yi leaned over and placed his hand on the old man's wrist. What are you doing? Don't move. Are you trying to kill my dad? Huru had just calmed down for a moment, but when she saw Lin Yi trying to touch the old man, she immediately erupted again, charging at him with her teeth bared. Myocardial ischemia? Angina pectoris. Lin Yi frowned and looked up. Huru, stop it. Liu Xianyi's eyes lit up at Lin Yi's words. He pulled his wife aside, his face filled with anticipation. He wasn't stupid. Lin Yi simply felt his father's pulse and revealed the cause of his illness. Liu Xianyi naturally mistook Lin Yi for a doctor. Little brother, are you a doctor? Lin Yi didn't directly answer Liu Xianyi's question. Your father collapsed due to angina pectoris caused by myocardial ischemia, not from her car. You're talking nonsense. Huru's face changed, and she pointed at Lin Yi and cursed. Okay, then even if I'm talking nonsense, with the speed the ambulance is coming, your father can just wait to die? Lin Yi curled his lips and stood up. He's dead anyway. There's a forensic examination, and it has nothing to do with my friend, Pa. Liu Xianyi slapped Huru in the face. Shut up, you bitch. If you hadn't been so busy putting on makeup before going out, and asked you to bring Dad's medicine, but you forgot, would Dad be like this? You dare to hit me? Huru's eyes were filled with disbelief. Her husband had been a softie in front of her for most of his life, but she didn't expect him to slap her in public today. Liu Xianyi ignored his wife and turned to look at Lin Yi earnestly. Brother, do you have a way to save my father? Yes, you certainly do. My wife is in this state. Please don't be offended. I hope you can lend a hand. Liu Xianyi was no pushover. Lin Yi, though young, had accurately pinpointed the cause of his father's illness, which must have been something special. His father had no emergency medication, and whether he could survive until the ambulance arrived was a different matter. So Liu Xianyi had no choice but to give it his all, seeing a glimmer of hope. Lin Yi looked at Liu Xianyi, finding him sincere and, after all, manly for slapping his wife earlier. He slowly nodded. I'll give it a try. While the old man's death had nothing to do with Wang Xinayan, judging by the shrew's expression, it seemed like there would be plenty of trouble ahead. The only way to completely free Wang Xinayan from this trouble was to keep the old man alive. Lin Yi squatted down and, seemingly casually, stroked the old man's body in several places before beginning to massage around his heart. This acupressure and massage technique, inherited from his master, boosted blood circulation, but he wasn't sure if it would work on this old man. His master probably wouldn't have imagined that the acupressure he'd taught him was meant to kill, while he was using it to save lives. If only he had silver needles. His master was a skilled doctor, having passed on his unique acupuncture skills. However, Lin Yi's main focus was killing, not saving lives, so he didn't carry a box of silver needles. Boy, it's futile to keep pushing like that. This man is half dead. He died before your massage could take effect. Suddenly, Jiao Yazi's dismissive voice reached Lin Yi's ears. Master Jiao? Do you have a solution? Lin Yi was instantly delighted. In reality, he was also a little nervous. While old man Lin's medical skills were superb, many emergency procedures required silver needles. And it also depends on the symptoms. If the old man had just fallen ill, Lin Yi might have been able to save him, but now he'd been ill for quite some time, so Lin Yi had no choice but to try his luck. HMPH, you've practiced the Xuanyuan Yulong Jue for 10 years, and it was all in vain, wasn't it? Jiao Yazi snorted coldly. If you take a small amount of the energy you absorbed into your body and inject it into this old man's heart muscle, it will help restore the heart muscle and increase blood supply, and improve the current condition. Directly inject energy. Lin Yi was stunned. This was something he had never considered. He had originally thought that the energy elements absorbed into the body would only be useful to him, because he practiced the Xuanyuan Yulong Jue, and this energy element would be useless to others. He hasn't practiced the Xuanyuan Yulong Jue. Will this energy element have any effect on him? Lin Yi knew that this energy element had a very significant effect on strengthening the body's tissue functions, but would it be useful without the support of the technique? He hasn't practiced before, so he can't absorb the energy elements himself. But he can receive the ones you send to him, Jiao Yazi explained. Boy, you don't fail to understand such a simple principle, do you? Lin Yi's face flushed. He really didn't understand this. Old man Lin didn't know the Xuanyuan Yulong Jue either. He practiced completely alone, without even anyone to consult. Concentrate a man's dad in acupoint on this old man, and the energy elements will be automatically released and transmitted, Jiao Yazi said. If you don't want him to die, start now. Yes, Lin Yi's heart trembled, and he quickly followed Jiao Yezi's instructions to rescue the old man. As for the Dadan acupoint, Lin Yi had been learning to identify it since he was a child under the guidance of his master. And he was basically familiar with it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.